Chapter 21. Snape's Special Question. The basement classroom was dimly lit, filled with the peculiar smell of various specimens. Gryffindor and Slytherin first years were gathered, each with a crucible on their desk, heated by an alcohol lamp. White smoke rose from the crucibles, adding to the room's eerie atmosphere. Bang! The door of the classroom was suddenly pushed open, and sunlight streamed in through the door frame. Professor Snape, dressed in his customary black robe, strode towards the podium, instantly capturing everyone's attention. "Waving wands and chanting spells are not allowed in my class," Professor Snape announced, his voice high-pitched and stern, his intimidating presence palpable. "I don't think many of you know how to appreciate the profound science and precise craftsmanship of making potions. However, for those few top students, and those who are genuinely interested..." At this point, Snape glanced at Aaron and Draco sitting in the front row, as if they were among the few top students. Draco gave a flattered smile, but Aaron remained composed, knowing that Snape's gaze had briefly lingered on him before shifting under the table. "Gaius, don't bring pets to my class next time. If your cat accidentally falls into the cauldron, it may be melted and nothing will be left," Snape warned. "It won't. This guy is exceptionally smart," Aaron replied seriously. "Heh! The process of making potions is quite cumbersome, and a small mistake can completely ruin a pot of priceless potion. If this result is caused by your cat, then I'll pay, double the compensation. The professor will definitely not let you suffer," Aaron said immediately. "What if there are casualties? The Gaius family will take full responsibility." Professor Snape took a deep look at the white cat at Aaron's feet, his gaze curious but dignified. He then tightened his robe and once again focused on the students. "I can teach you how to cast spells on the mind and how to trap the senses. I'll teach you how to store fame, brew glory, and even how to make an elixir of life." At this moment, there was a rustling sound behind Aaron, the sound of a pen tip rubbing against paper. Aaron glanced over and saw Harry Potter writing something, so focused that he didn't even lift his head. Aaron hastily winked at Hermione, signaling her to tell Harry to stop writing, as it wasn't an important note. Hermione was about to push Harry's arm when Snape's voice cut through the air. "Well, maybe some of you came to Hogwarts with supernatural abilities and enough self-confidence to think that you don't have to pay attention to my lecture." Snape walked up to Harry Potter and looked down at him. "Mr. Potter, a celebrity of our generation, tell me, what happens if I add daffodil root powder to absinthe stalk liquid?" Aaron was slightly stunned by the question, glancing at Snape with a hint of regret. Harry froze for a few seconds, then shook his head. "Don't know. Then let me ask you something else. Mr. Potter, if I want a bezoar, do you know where to find it?" "I don't know, teacher," Harry said anxiously, his heart sinking. He didn't understand why Snape was targeting him. There might be answers to these questions in the book, but he wasn't like Hermione, who studied hard. His uncle's family hadn't allowed him to touch anything related to magic until he started school. He was a pure novice in the magical world, so it was no surprise he couldn't answer. Hermione raised her right hand high, eager to answer the question for Harry, but Snape ignored her. "What's the difference between the boat-shaped aconitum and the wolfsbane aconitum?" Snape continued to ask. Hermione raised her hand even higher, desperate to be called on. "I don't know, sir," Harry said weakly, a slight grievance in his tone. "Unfortunately," Snape said flatly, "it seems that our celebrity is not as knowledgeable as he should be." "Fame alone is not enough, right, Mr. Potter?" Draco sneered, turning to mock Harry Potter. However, his expression darkened when he noticed Hermione's raised hand. Clearly, Hermione Granger knew the answer to a question that had stumped him. "You need substance to ridicule people," Aaron whispered. "Only if you are truly capable can you stand tall with confidence." "Well said," Snape interjected, turning swiftly. "Mr. Gaius, please answer my question." "Me?" Aaron pointed to himself in surprise, then gestured towards Hermione, who still had her hand raised. "Shouldn't it be Hermione?" "In my class, no one answers questions by raising their hand," Snape sneered. "Her doing so is unnecessary." He glared at Hermione. "Now sit down." Hermione reluctantly lowered her hand and sat upright, her face full of dissatisfaction. "You can answer my question, Mr. Gaius." Aaron stood up slowly. "A bezoar is a stone taken from the gallbladder of a cow, which has detoxifying properties. The boat-shaped aconitum and comejasma aconitum are collectively called aconitum. They are the same plant. As for the first question, what happens when you add daffodil root powder to absinthe stock liquid? I don't know. I'll leave that to Harry Potter to answer later. Snape paused, looking at Aaron with surprise. You are indeed unique. 1 point for Slytherin. Sit down. Thank you, Professor. As for Gryffindor, 1 point is deducted for a certain student who disappointed me, Snape added mercilessly. That's not fair, Harry protested. Didn't Aaron answer everything? Very well. Questioning the teacher's decision will cost you another point. Harry wanted to argue further, but Hermione tugged at his sleeve, and he reluctantly fell silent. The potions class continued, with Snape dividing the students into pairs. However, Aaron, likely due to his pet, was assigned to work alone, which suited him just fine. He preferred to handle the delicate potion-making process by himself, avoiding the risk of an unreliable partner causing an explosion. In this class, Snape taught the students how to brew a simple potion for treating boils. Most students, including many from Slytherin, faced criticism, except for Aaron and Draco. Some small accidents occurred, such as a student failing to add ingredients on time, turning the potion for treating boils into one that caused boils. Snape was furious, but still sent the injured student to the infirmary with a cold demeanor. After class, the students hurried to the Great Hall for lunch. Harry grumbled along the way. Professor Snape is more than just a nuisance. Indeed, it's the first time I've seen such an annoying teacher, Hermione agreed. It's no surprise. Snape is the head of Slytherin and loves to target Gryffindor. George and Fred often lose points because of him. Didn't you see how biased he is towards Aaron and Malfoy? Ron said angrily. I think I heard my name. What are you guys talking about? Aaron approached, his pet following closely. We're discussing the partiality of a certain professor, Ron replied, glaring at Aaron. Oh, Aaron looked puzzled. Are you talking about Professor Snape? I think he's quite fair. Fair? He's biased and strict, Ron retorted. Strictness is necessary. Potions class requires precision, and mistakes can be dangerous. As for favoritism, perhaps. But every head of house tends to favor their own students. It's harmless. But, Harry began, but Aaron cut him off. I know. You might feel a little wronged, but let me tell you the answer to Professor Snape's first question. Powdered daffodil root mixed with absinthe stem liquid can be formulated as a powerful sleeping pill. You know? Several people looked at Aaron unexpectedly, wondering why he didn't answer this question in class. Of course I know. I used to read books to pass the time when I was bored, but this question was asked by Mr. Snape specifically to you, Harry. It holds special meaning. It may take you a long time to understand it. You know what that means, don't you? Hermione asked, her curiosity piqued. Can you tell us? After pondering for a moment, Aaron shook his head. I'm sorry, Hermione. I really can't say. This question needs to be understood by Harry himself, but it is not so easy to accept. Chapter 22. At lunchtime, students gathered in the auditorium, sitting in small groups. Aaron peeled an orange for Abe while eating his bread. You really treat your cat very well, Draco laughed. Don't underestimate him. This guy can at least rank among the top 4 in our family, and in the pet world, his pedigree is among the best, Aaron said seriously. Boom! An explosion suddenly sounded, startling everyone. When they looked over curiously, they couldn't help but laugh. A first-year student stood there with a blackened face, holding a wand in his right hand, motionless as if frozen in place. In front of him was a cup spilled on the table and a spell book. It wasn't hard to guess that something had gone wrong while he was testing a spell. When the mail arrived, hundreds of owls flew into the auditorium, delivering letters and packages to their owners. Draco's package contained various brands of candy. He opened 2 and placed them on Ab's dinner plate. Abe sniffed, then narrowed his eyes into crescents and gave Draco a kind smile. Thanks. It's nothing. It's the first time I've seen such a cute cat, Draco said. By the way, Aaron, what's in your package? Hearing this, Aaron looked down at his package. He was sure it wasn't from his parents, so it had to be from Jin's. Thinking of this, Aaron felt a surge of gratitude. What is a loved one? This is it. But after opening it, his face darkened. There were 2 things in the package, a newspaper and a chicken leg. Obviously, the newspaper was for him, and the chicken leg was for the growing baby dragon. The most annoying part was the note under the chicken leg, which clearly stated that Abe would be given healthy and nutritious meals every few days, asking Aaron to be careful not to overfeed him. When Draco saw it, he couldn't help but sneer. I believe it now, this cat is really not ordinary gold. Aaron. In the afternoon, there was a flying class, equivalent to physical education in the Muggle world, and it was the class almost all students looked forward to the most. But Aaron didn't look forward to it much, as it made no difference to him whether he learned it or not. Signing in at Hogwarts earned him a lot of magic points. At this rate, he could get a magic carpet in up to 10 days. Who would ride a broom when they could have such a superior flying prop? Besides, when Ab grew up a bit, his flying speed would be faster than any magic item. Wouldn't it be great to ride a dragon? Ab, who was lying on the lawn basking in the sun, shivered suddenly. Professor Hooch, with short gray hair, approached. Good afternoon, students. Good afternoon, Mrs. Hooch. Professor Hooch walked up to the students. The first flight lesson is starting now. What are you waiting for? Everyone stand on the left side of the broomstick. All right, move faster. The students immediately followed suit, standing by their brooms. Professor Hooch stretched out her right hand and explained, Put your right hand on top of the broom and then say, Get up. Get up, echoed the students. Harry's broom was in his hands in no time, a stroke of genius. The same was true for Aaron. Although he didn't like magic brooms very much, he couldn't deny his talent. As for the others, they continued to try. The voices of Get Up came and went. Some succeeded quickly, like Draco, while others, like Hermione, tried more than 10 times. A few students yelled, but their brooms only shook slightly. Ron was even worse, getting hit in the face by his flying broom. After more than 10 minutes, all the students found the trick to call the broom and held it firmly in their hands. Professor Hooch walked among them. Now, grab your broomsticks and mount them. Hold on tightly, don't slip down. As soon as I blow the whistle, each of you will kick the ground vigorously and rise into the air. You have to. Stabilize the broom, hover for a while, then lean forward slightly and return to the ground. On my whistle, 3-2. The whistle blew, and before the other students could react, Neville's shot up involuntarily. It wobbled uncontrollably, shaking from side to side and bobbing up and down. Moments later, Neville Longbottom was airborne, flying in an exaggerated manner under the surprised or worried eyes of his classmates. Everyone clearly heard him shout, Help! Neville flipped and circled in various postures in the sky, his whole body dizzy, but his hands firmly grasped the broom handle as if taming a wild horse. However, his technique was far from proficient. The broom led him to crash into the castle walls and then swoop down, creating ripples on the lawn. Professor Hooch drew her wand to stop Neville, but his speed was so fast that he flew past her before she could cast a spell. How pathetic! Aaron exclaimed. Aaron! Draco tugged at Aaron's sleeve, unable to take his eyes off Neville. What's happening? Maybe I'm seeing things, but that white, fluffy thing hanging in front of Neville's broom looks like your pet. What? Impossible. It's Abbe, Hermione confirmed. Aaron squinted and saw a white cat clinging to the broom's top. Its 4 paws gripped the broom tightly, and its face, which everyone found adorable, showed no trace of panic. On the contrary, it looked excited, a stark contrast to Neville's terror. Unbelievable, Aaron muttered, immediately chasing after them on his broom. He wasn't worried about Ab's flying abilities. It was born with the ability to fly. However, he feared that the dragon cub might reveal its wings in its excitement. It had only been a few days since school started, and he wasn't ready for everyone to know he had a dragon. Aaron's speed was impressive, and unlike Neville's erratic flight, his goal was clear. After predicting where Neville's broom would fly next, he jumped up and in one swift motion grabbed Ab off the broom. He then ducked to avoid colliding with the spinning Neville. Phew! That was close! Aaron sighed in relief, glaring at Ab, who covered its eyes with its front paws in embarrassment. You troublemaker. We'll talk about this later. When Aaron returned to the ground, Neville seemed to have had enough of his wild ride. He flew over a sculpture above the castle, and the spear in the sculpture's hand hooked his wizard robe, leaving him hanging at least 20 meters above the ground. However, the robe soon tore under his weight, and Neville began to fall. Fortunately, when he was still 20 feet above the ground, the remaining half of his robe caught on a lampstand, slowing his descent. But it couldn't hold for long, and after another tier, Neville continued to fall. Wingardium Leviosa. Aaron drew his wand and silently cast a levitation spell on Neville, just a few centimeters above the ground. Boom! A few seconds later, Neville landed, but thanks to the spell, he wasn't seriously injured. All the students turned their heads, assuming Professor Hooch had cast the spell. Professor Hooch looked at Aaron, surprised to see his wand already put away, and he looked at her with the same astonishment as the other students. Professor Hooch felt a pang of inadequacy as a professor, realizing she had to rely on a student to save the day. To save face and avoid any teaching accidents, Professor Hooch quickly shifted her focus. Professor, I suggest you go and check on Neville. He might have suffered a slight injury, Aaron reminded her. Ah, that's right, Professor Hooch exclaimed, snapping back to reality. She hurried over to Neville to assess his condition. Fortunately, it was just a few scratches that would heal within 2 days at most. Turning to address the rest of the students, she said, "Now, everyone stay on the ground obediently. I will take Mr. Longbottom to the hospital wing. Understand? If I see anyone on a broomstick, that person will be expelled before they can even say Quidditch." Neville, moaning softly, walked towards the hospital wing with Professor Hooch's support. As he passed by Aaron, he paused and whispered, "Thank you." No one else had noticed Aaron casting a spell earlier, but Neville, being right in front of him, had seen it clearly. Chapter 23. The Birth of a New Generation of Seekers. Malfoy picked up a transparent ball that Neville had dropped on the lawn, weighed it lightly, and said with a smirk, "See his face? If the fat man pinches the ball, he'll remember to land on his butt." Many students laughed, especially those from Slytherin. "Give me the ball, Malfoy," Harry said, walking over. "No, I'm going to hide it and let Neville find it," Malfoy replied, then mounted his broomstick. He hovered for a moment before flying into the sky. "What's the matter, Potter? Out of reach?" Harry glared at him, grabbed his broom, and mounted it. Just as he was about to take off, Hermione stopped him. "Harry, this is absolutely impossible. Mrs. Hooch just said so, and besides, you don't know how to fly yet." Harry ignored her, kicked the ground hard, and flew straight towards Malfoy. "What an idiot," Hermione said, exasperated. "Another wizard with a talent for flying." Aaron observed, looking up at the scene with a mix of emotions. "Aaron, stop watching and get Malfoy down quickly. He should listen to you," Hermione urged. Hermione, you may have misunderstood something. Didn't you also try to persuade Harry just now? Did he listen?" Aaron explained patiently. Yes, he is my friend, not my servant. For the sake of our friendship, he might listen to my advice, but I have no right to order him to do anything," Aaron continued. "But Hermione looked at the two boys riding brooms high in the sky, worry etched on her face. "It's okay. This can only be regarded as a prank among students at best, and Professor Hooch is just scaring people," Aaron reassured her. "If students were expelled for such trivial matters as not using the flying broom in the flying class, there would be less than half of the students left at Hogwarts. Among the expelled students, Gryffindor, who likes pranks the most, would definitely account for more than half. Furthermore, one of the two people riding the broom is the son of a member of the board of directors, and the other is the boy who survived the catastrophe in the prophecy. Dumbledore will not expel them." After a while, Harry stabilized his broom and stopped opposite Malfoy. "Give it to me quickly, or I'll beat you down." "Big talk," Malfoy sneered. Harry didn't waste any more words and went straight to snatch the ball. Just as he was about to touch the memory ball, Malfoy grabbed his broom and made a 360-degree spin, dodging perfectly. As soon as Harry turned his broom around, Malfoy threw the memory ball into the distance provocatively. "Then just figure it out!" Malfoy threw the memory ball forcefully. Harry's pupils dilated slightly as he controlled his broom to speed up and chase after it. Seeing this, Aaron frowned slightly. Draco's approach was a bit too much. The brat was too used to getting his way, and it would probably take a lot of effort to break that habit. Harry's talent for flying was evident. Although it was his first time using a magic broom, he handled it with remarkable skill. He caught the memory ball just as it was about to hit the castle wall. Coincidentally, this scene was witnessed by Professor McGonagall, who was working nearby. If Harry hadn't caught the memory ball in time, it would have landed in her office. After Harry landed on the lawn with the memory ball, the Gryffindor students ran over, cheering and praising him for a job well done. While they were celebrating, Professor McGonagall walked over quickly and gave Harry a stern look. "Harry Potter, come with me." Draco and his two followers laughed sarcastically as they saw Harry shrugging his head and following Professor McGonagall. "Is it funny?" Aaron asked. "Of course, this is what Harry Potter asked for. Maybe he will be expelled tomorrow." Draco laughed, already thinking about how to celebrate. "I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint you. It's just a small problem. Professor McGonagall is the head of Gryffindor. She won't expel students for something like this," Aaron said, shaking his head. Aaron poured cold water on Malfoy's agitated heart. "Humph, that can only be said to be his luck," Malfoy retorted. "Perhaps, but you really shouldn't have thrown Neville's Remembrall," Aaron said seriously. "What do you mean?" Malfoy frowned. "Remember what Mr. Snape said about Harry Potter in class? Fame is not enough. As one of the 28 sacred families, the Malfoy family has always been a representative of pure blood. In other words, the reputation of your Malfoy family is no less significant than that of Harry Potter. This is the reputation your family has accumulated over thousands of years. What you did just now is tantamount to discrediting the family. Although it may seem trivial for Draco to throw Neville's Remembrall, what if Draco were the heir of the Malfoy family? Those who knew it might think it was a prank, but those who didn't would think you were bullying others. Oh, yes, I remember that the Longbottom family is also one of the 28 sacred families." Malfoy froze for a moment, then fell silent. He had never thought about it this way before. For the first time, Draco, who had always been pampered, felt the pressure that fame brought him. Thinking of this, Malfoy suddenly became a little apprehensive. "Understood. I won't do these things again in the future." "Just understand," Aaron said, satisfied with his words. The pureblood family should indeed defend the family's honor, and there was nothing wrong with that. On the other side, Harry was brought to the door of the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom by Professor McGonagall. "Wait here," Professor McGonagall instructed Harry before walking in herself. "Professor Quirrell, excuse me, can I have a word with Wood?" Professor Quirrell, who was holding a large chameleon and giving a lecture to the students, suddenly trembled. After understanding her request, he nodded immediately. Yes, of course." A senior boy with a Gryffindor badge pinned to his wizard robe followed Professor McGonagall out of the classroom. She took him to Harry and explained, "Potter, this is Oliver Wood. Wood, I got you a seeker." "What the hell?" Harry looked confused. Shouldn't he be punished? Why did he suddenly become a seeker? Also, is it really appropriate for him to be a seeker when he doesn't even know what a seeker is? But seeing the excited expressions on Professor McGonagall and Wood's faces, he wisely kept his thoughts to himself. The news that Harry Potter had become the seeker for the Gryffindor Quidditch team spread quickly, and by evening, the whole school knew about it. Normally, first-year students are not eligible to participate in Quidditch, but this was no obstacle for Professor McGonagall, the head of Gryffindor who loved Quidditch dearly. She went straight to Dumbledore, who made an exception very easily. This might be because Dumbledore also graduated from Gryffindor, and the house had not won the House Cup for a long time. A Quidditch champion could add a lot of points to the house. After dinner, Ron and Harry walked in the corridor, both of them looking very excited. "Seekers? The Academy team has never had a freshman. You must be the youngest player," Ron said. "Yes, and the youngest in a century." "Professor McGonagall said she wants me to start training next week," Harry replied. The twin brothers, George and Fred, appeared behind them, and one of them said excitedly, "Great, Harry. Wood told us." "Fred and George are on the team as beaters," Ron explained. Another twin added, "It's our job to make sure you don't get beaten all over the place. But it can't be all right. Quidditch is brutal. It's cruel, but no one has ever died. Occasionally someone disappears after a game, but they reappear after a month or two," the other twin said. Hearing this, Harry's face changed slightly. He didn't know that this sport, loved by almost all wizards, had such risks. Is it too late to quit now? It must be too late. After all, it has been decided. It was common knowledge that once you proposed to withdraw from the team, it was tantamount to losing face. Ron noticed the worried expression on Harry's face and tried to persuade him. Come on, Harry. Quidditch is thrilling, the most exciting game there is, and you're the best. But I've never played Quidditch before. What if I make a fool of myself? Harry said anxiously. Hermione, who had been engrossed in a book, looked up and smiled reassuringly. You won't make a fool of yourself, Harry. You have a natural talent. With that, she led them to the Quidditch monument in Gryffindor Tower. There, engraved on the monument, was the name James Potter, Harry's father, who had served as the seeker for the Gryffindor team. Chapter 24. Fighting in the Ring? Snape's Proposition. Severus Snape's office was a place of mystery and intrigue. Aaron had been summoned there and had been waiting for nearly 20 minutes, unsure of the reason. The room was a testament to Snape's mastery of potions, with shelves lined with glass bottles and jars containing rare ingredients and finished potions, many of which were hard to find on the market. Wow, Professor Snape has everything so neatly organized. If someone managed to steal these, they could make tens of thousands of galleons. It would be enough to live comfortably for years, Aaron mused to himself. As he finished speaking, he felt a sudden chill on his neck and saw a long shadow reflected on the wall. From the style of the robe and the hair around the ears, it was easy to guess who it was. Hey, Professor, I'm just being honest. Don't you have any traps set up here? Aaron said, trying to lighten the mood. Stop being silly, Snape snapped, glaring at him as he sat down at his desk. Do you know why I called you here? How would I know? Aaron replied, exasperated. If I knew, I wouldn't be here waiting. You know Harry Potter has become Gryffindor's seeker, Snape stated. I know, the whole of Hogwarts is buzzing about it. But what does that have to do with me? Aaron asked, puzzled. I want you to be the seeker for the Slytherin house team, Snape declared. I refuse, Aaron said immediately, his tone firm. The idea of playing in a Quidditch match, standing out in front of everyone, was not appealing to him. That kind of attention was more suited to Harry Potter, the savior. Besides, Quidditch was dangerous. If he made a mistake and injured a student, he could be liable for medical expenses. To others, it might be an opportunity for glory, but to him it was a thankless task. Why? You have the talent, Snape said, surprised. Almost no students disliked Quidditch, and he was sure no freshman would refuse such an offer. But Aaron was different. He was one of the few who had no interest in Quidditch. Watching the game was fine, but playing in it? No way. I just don't want to participate. What if I lose? If you're really looking for a seeker, I think Draco Malfoy would be a good fit. He'd love the chance to play against Harry, Aaron suggested. Really? He recommended you to me. Want to know why? He said he wasn't confident about catching a cat on a scurrying broomstick. Snape sneered, glancing at Aaron with interest. And your cat gives me a very different feeling. Very different. Just being close to it gives me a warm feeling. Aaron hugged his cat protectively. It's an illusion. Definitely an illusion. Humph. Is it an illusion? You know better than me, Snape said, sitting up straight. At present, you are the most suitable candidate. Ha! Aaron scoffed. Professor Snape, I respect you very much. But just because you don't like Harry Potter doesn't mean you should drag me into this. And it's unfair to Slytherin's current seeker. We Slytherins have principles. We can't ignore the students' feelings just because of the dean's personal emotions. Don't worry about that. I've spoken with Terence, and he will cooperate. As long as you can prove you're stronger, it's a matter of Slytherin's honor. He won't refuse to give up the position of seeker, Snape explained. Aaron was taken aback. Terence must be Slytherin's current seeker. Professor, you're really something, but the student whose feelings I'm talking about is me. You can't force a student to participate in a Quidditch match they don't want to be in. Hey, how can this be called coercion? Snape said flatly. I'm giving you a chance to be honored. This should be seen as a privilege. Aaron sighed internally. Whoever likes this kind of privilege can have it, he thought. Prefer to have you scrubbing cauldrons for the rest of the term. Out! Aaron sighed and left Snape's office, his mind racing with thoughts. he couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and trepidation about the upcoming Quidditch match. The stakes were high, and Snape's expectations weighed heavily on him. As he walked through the dimly lit corridors of Hogwarts, Aaron reflected on the conversation. Snape's contradictory behavior towards Harry Potter was puzzling. On one hand, he seemed to care about Harry, but on the other, he went out of his way to make Harry's life difficult. Aaron couldn't quite understand the motivations behind Snape's actions. Lost in thought, Aaron almost bumped into Draco Malfoy, who was leaning casually against a wall, flanked by Crabbe and Goyle. "Watch where you're going, Gaius," Draco sneered, his eyes narrowing. "What were you doing in Snape's office?" "None of your business, Malfoy," Aaron replied coolly, not in the mood for a confrontation. Draco's eyes gleamed with curiosity. "Oh, come on, you can tell me. We're both Slytherins, after all." Aaron hesitated for a moment before deciding to share a bit of information. "Snape wants me to join the Quidditch team as a seeker." Draco's eyebrows shot up in surprise. "Really? Well, good luck with that. You'll need it if you're going up against Potter," Aaron smirked. "Thanks for the vote of confidence, Malfoy. I'll be sure to remember that." Draco shrugged, a sly smile playing on his lips. "Just don't embarrass Slytherin, Gaius. We have a reputation to uphold." With that, Draco and his cronies sauntered off, leaving Aaron to his thoughts once more. He knew that the upcoming match would be a test of his skills and determination. But more than that, it was an opportunity to prove himself, not just to Snape, but to the entire school. As he made his way back to the Slytherin common room, Aaron's mind was already strategizing. He would need to train hard, study Harry's moves, and be prepared for anything. The weight of Snape's expectations and the desire to earn the respect of his housemates fueled his determination. The common room was bustling with activity when he arrived. Students were chatting, playing games, and studying. Aaron found a quiet corner and sat down, pulling out a piece of parchment and a quill. He began to jot down notes, outlining a training regimen and potential strategies for the match. As he wrote, he couldn't help but think about Snape's promise to help him unconditionally once before the end of the school year. It was a valuable card to hold, and Aaron knew he would need to use it wisely. The thought of Voldemort's remnant soul still lingered in his mind, and he wondered if that would be the moment to call in Snape's favor. For now, though, his focus was on the upcoming Quidditch match. He would train hard, give it his all, and show everyone that he was a force to be reckoned with. And maybe, just maybe, he would uncover the mystery behind Snape's contradictory behavior towards Harry Potter. With a determined glint in his eye, Aaron set to work, ready to face the challenges ahead. "Say it a second time. Get out. Just get out." Aaron immediately got up and walked out. As he was about to step out of the door, Snape suddenly spoke again. "By the way, Mr. Gaius, you'd better not inquire about my affairs. It won't do you any good. Don't worry, my curiosity isn't that strong, and I'm not interested in your past. Take it as my respect for you." After Aaron left, Snape smiled bitterly in the studio. "What an annoying little wizard," he muttered to himself. Chapter 25, The Seniors of the Academy Team, Quidditch Pitch. Tonight, Slytherin had the right to use the Quidditch pitch. The 7 members of the Academy team were already there, waiting. Among them, Terence, the Seeker, wore a slightly displeased expression. His position was being challenged by a well-known first-year student. However, since the candidate was personally recommended by Snape, he couldn't refuse and had to prove himself through his skills. It seemed unbelievable that an 11-year-old boy who had never touched a Quidditch broom could outperform him, an experienced Seeker, without any training. A few minutes later, Aaron arrived, with Abe obediently walking beside him. Snape followed closely behind. The presence of Snape made the Academy team feel uneasy. If it had been just Aaron, they might have shown off their skills. But with Snape, the headmaster, present, they had to cooperate honestly and avoid any mischief. "Hi, seniors and sisters, good evening." Aaron greeted them enthusiastically, shaking hands with each member, showing great excitement. Although the team members were not thrilled about this backdoor first-year freshman joining the Academy team, they couldn't ignore his politeness, especially with Snape watching. They had to respond courteously. "Is this all? Did you call me here just to see you have a friendly exchange with them?" Snape asked coldly. Of course not, Aaron replied, turning to face Snape. I just wanted to avoid trouble. Although I'm a freshman in Slytherin, I've been here for 2 weeks and I know a few things. Some students in Slytherin are very proud, and the college team is even more arrogant. Breaking the rules of the game is commonplace. I don't think they will be very friendly to me as a freshman. If you don't find someone with a high enough status to support me, I estimate it will take about half an hour to deal with their difficulties. Although, I don't mind. It's better to avoid unnecessary trouble. Snape looked at the 7 team members, who were gnashing their teeth but dared not speak out. His face darkened, and he immediately scolded them. Look at yourselves. What a disgrace to Slytherin. Are you telling me that Slytherin can't stand a challenge? I'm not asking him to directly replace Terrence. Those who are capable should rise, and those who are mediocre should step down. If you don't even have this confidence, then put down your brooms and quit the academy team. Otherwise, prove that he is stronger than you. The 7 team members felt ashamed. It wasn't as serious as Snape made it out to be. They were just a bit dissatisfied. But facing Snape's fury, they didn't dare to say a word. Ahem, Professor Snape, that's enough, Aaron interjected. They didn't mean any harm. He then looked at the 7 seniors of the academy team, his expression full of apology. Don't worry, everyone. I'm only participating in the Quidditch duel with Gryffindor this time. I'm not here to replace Senior Terrence. Dean Snape thinks that since Gryffindor has a first-year seeker, we Slytherins shouldn't bully them. So, they found me, a first-year freshman, to compete fairly with Harry Potter. I solemnly promise that I will quit the college team after this competition. It will not affect the friendship between my seniors and sisters, and I will not participate in any future Quidditch competitions organized by the school. The 7 members of the academy team looked at each other, feeling a bit overwhelmed. They had thought Aaron was just using connections to get in, but they hadn't expected such a sincere reason. To participate in Quidditch in the future requires immense determination. In comparison, they felt a bit ashamed. Few noticed the black lines forming on Snape's face. If you don't want to participate, just say so. Why make it sound so grandiose? But this guy is really something else. With just a few words, he managed to change the proud Slytherin's mind and even left a good impression. The Gaius family truly has successors. With this skill of talking nonsense with a straight face, they could shine for decades. Huh! Stop talking nonsense, Snape said, then turned to Aaron. Your ability to pretend is impressive, but the results will only be known after a comparison. Professor Snape, I fully understand what you mean, Aaron replied modestly. My strength may not match Senior Terrence's, but I must be recognized by the academy team, otherwise I am not qualified to represent Slytherin in the match. Just know that. Thank you, Professor, for your understanding. But before we officially start the competition, I need to clarify something. I usually have a lot of things to do, and I may not have much time to participate in training before the official competition. As soon as he said this, Snape and the academy team looked displeased. Even if you have talent, you can't waste it like this. Not practicing before the game is not the same thing. This is Quidditch. Don't push yourself any further, Snape said coldly. Professor, please hear me out. What I mean is that I will compete 3 times with my seniors. Seekers only need to focus on the snitch, so it doesn't matter if they participate in practice or not. I suggest that the first game involves only the snitch on the field. Whoever catches it first, Senior Terrence or I, will win. If I win by luck, it will prove that I have the ability to participate in this Quidditch match. The second game will also be about catching the snitch first, but it will be more difficult with 2 bludgers added to interfere. If I win in this scenario, it will prove that my first win wasn't just luck, convincing the seniors and sisters. As for the third game, it will again be about catching the snitch first. In addition to the bludgers, we will add the quaffle, and I will invite the academy team to attack me, but I can't use a bat. If I, an 11-year-old freshman, can still win then. Aaron paused, looking at everyone on the academy team with a smile. Don't disturb my studies before the game, and do you want to challenge our entire team alone? Captain Marcus interrupted him angrily, feeling provoked. Hey, of course not. How can you say that? I just want to simulate the game as much as possible. You, Marcus began, but Snape stopped him with a look. He turned to Aaron. What else? The other thing is that you can't foul during the official game, Aaron said seriously. Winning by fouling doesn't count. Although I don't foul, I don't want to hear that Slytherin won by fouling. Of course, seniors and sisters don't have to agree to the third game. The first 2 games are fine, but don't ask me to train before the official game. I promise, of course, I have to agree. Why not agree? Marcus said with a sneer. But I promise you will regret it. Very well, then let's ask Professor Snape to be a witness. Everyone looked at Snape, who was dressed in black. He looked at Aaron with a gloomy face. Are you sure you want to do this? They may not be merciful. Sure, but what? But when I call for help, Professor, you must save me, Aaron said righteously. The corner of Snape's mouth twitched. So you know you're afraid too? Of course. Otherwise, why would I call you here? I really thought it would be enough to hold up the scene. The gold content of your position as dean seems rather low, Aaron remarked confidently. Snape's expression darkened, but he nodded blankly. He then turned his attention to the academy team, who were ready and waiting, prepared to give Aaron an impressive lesson at any moment. I agree to 3 games, Snape said indifferently. But don't hold back on my account. I'll step in if things get critical. The 7 members of the academy team exchanged glances and nodded in unison, ready to face the challenge ahead. Chapter 26. Isn't it 1 versus 7? Aaron and Terence sat on their broomsticks, positioned on the east and west sides of the field. Snape released the golden snitch, which flapped its wings and darted up, down, left, and right at high speed. Finding it in the twilight was no easy task. 10 seconds later, a buzzing sound reached Aaron's ears. He instinctively stretched out his right hand to grab it, but came up empty. The golden snitch was incredibly fast, only slightly slower than a broomstick, and it dodged Aaron's grasp. His actions, however, caught Terence's attention. Spotting the snitch, Terence immediately controlled his broom and flew towards it. Seeing this, Aaron spread his hands, gave a harmless smile, and decisively turned to chase after the snitch. Being closer was an advantage, albeit a fleeting one in Quidditch. Unless the snitch flew in a straight line, the opponent could catch up in seconds, making it nearly impossible to catch within those few moments. The golden snitch began to circle the court, and Aaron followed closely. No matter how tricky its flight path, he kept up, gradually closing the distance. Observers couldn't help but notice the gap between Terence's flying skills and Aaron's, even if they were reluctant to admit it. Terence, aware of this, changed his tactics. Instead of chasing from behind, he predicted the snitch's direction and blocked its path. His sudden appearance caused the snitch to pause momentarily. Though it was just a ball, it seemed to have a will of its own, avoiding capture. This brief hesitation allowed Aaron to grab it with a swift motion. Terence stared blankly, then vented his frustration by slamming his arms. "Sorry, Senior," Aaron said modestly. "It seems I won by luck this time." Terence hummed in response, turned around, and returned to his seat without a word. Aaron tossed the snitch back to Snape. "Professor, it's almost time for round 2. Don't you need a break?" Snape asked. "Quidditch matches are exhausting, and 3 consecutive matches are challenging for anyone." "I don't need it," Aaron replied, glancing at Terence. "I just don't know about Senior Terence." "If you don't need it, neither do I," Terence said resolutely. Seeing their determination, Snape nodded slightly and walked to the center of the field. He opened the box containing the bludgers. 2 black iron bludgers, 10 inches in size, popped out, always trying to knock players off their brooms during games. The golden snitch became active again. Snape raised his wand, and a ball of fireworks ignited in the air, signaling the start of the game. Aaron and Terence's expressions grew serious. With the addition of 2 aggressive bludgers, they couldn't afford to be careless. This wasn't a formal game. There were no beaters to block the bludgers for them. They had to avoid the bludgers while catching the snitch, or risk serious injury. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sound of the bludgers breaking through the air echoed in the stadium. Aaron and Terence began their search for the golden snitch. Aaron spotted it first, but luck wasn't on his side this time. The snitch was closer to Terence. The chase began, with the snitch flying at tricky angles. sometimes circling the court walls, sometimes diving down, sometimes weaving through pillars and bouncing up and down, using the high platform's wooden stakes to block the seekers. In short, it was a relentless pursuit. You can get rid of the seeker. These are a kind of test for the seeker's skills. If one's understanding of their own flying ability is not accurate enough and they are eager for quick success, it is likely to cause accidents. Terence can act as a seeker. His skills are excellent, but not exceptional. Compared to Aaron, he is too cautious, or perhaps a little afraid of getting hurt. At the beginning of the game, Terence could still focus most of his attention on the snitch. However, after a period of chasing, his pressure gradually began to increase, especially with the sound of the bludger hitting the building, which startled. When Aaron caught up with him, Terence obviously diverted more energy to avoiding the bludgers, as the two bludgers targeted him simultaneously, doubling the danger. The sensation of the ball flying past his scalp was unnerving. Finally, after a few minutes, Aaron won and caught the snitch. Snape immediately took out his wand and stopped the two bludgers to prevent them from flying around after the game. "Snap! Snap! Snap!" Snape applauded expressionlessly. It was a very exciting match. So, do we need a third match? As soon as his words fell, everyone in the Academy team couldn't wait to fly into the arena. Marcus gave Aaron a provocative look. In the first two games, they had already recognized Aaron's ability, but in this last game, they couldn't let Aaron win. Otherwise, they would lose all face. Imagine the dignified Slytherin house team with 7 players being bested by a first-year freshman. "Wait, Professor, I'm asking for a 10-minute break," Aaron said, holding up his hand. "Huh?" Snape sneered, the corners of his mouth raised slightly. "You won't be brave this time?" Aaron smiled embarrassingly. "I'm still very self-aware. In the first 2 games, Senior Terence played against me alone. I was tired and he was tired too, which is fair. But what I have to face next is the entire Academy team. If I don't adjust my state properly, I will probably lose miserably." "Humph, you've already proven your abilities, and it's too late for you to regret it now. It doesn't really matter if the third game is better or not. Slytherin students still have a sense of shame. If 7 fight 1, they will definitely win, but this is much worse than bullying. So it's just us guys on the pitch. As long as I don't say it, the professor doesn't say it, and they don't say it, no one will know, right?" Aaron laughed. Snape pondered for a few seconds, looking at Aaron with more appreciation. "You have 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, start the next round." "Thank you, Professor." Aaron laughed, then flew down, took out a lollipop from Ab's pocket, unwrapped it, and put it in his mouth. "Ahem." Snape stared at Aaron with a strange expression. "Mr. Gaius, don't you know that the untraceable stretching charm cannot be used casually?" "The untraceable stretching charm?" Aaron looked at the candy in his hand and the aggrieved Abby, thinking carelessly in his heart, but he pretended to be dazed. "Professor, I think you misunderstood. There is no untraceable stretching charm on its clothes. It is purely used to hold snacks. But what you said just now does have merit, and I have decided to send a letter to my family tomorrow to prepare a piece of clothing for Ab with the no-trace stretching charm cast on it." Snape's complexion darkened slightly, and he simply turned his face away. 10 minutes later, Aaron flew above the court and confronted the somewhat embarrassed but extremely determined Academy team. Following Snape's signal to start, the snitch and 2 bludgers appeared on the field at the same time. Aaron didn't immediately look for the snitch, but instead focused on the 6 Academy players except Terence. After all, for him, the third game was the most difficult and also the most dangerous. Terence could slowly find the snitch, but it wouldn't be so easy for Aaron. In addition to snatching the snitch, he also needed to guard against the siege of the 6 seniors. In this challenging game, Aaron had only 2 flying and unrecognizable bludgers at his disposal. From the moment the game began, Aaron's strategy was clear and straightforward. His primary goal was to avoid the encirclement and suppression tactics of the Academy team while doing everything in his power to prevent Terence from catching the golden snitch. Throughout this process, Aaron cleverly used the 2 bludgers as if they were his teammates, often directing them towards other players, creating dangerous situations. Despite the seemingly reckless, dangerous, and even foolish nature of his strategy, Aaron managed to hold his own for over an hour. At one point, he even used a bludger to knock Marcus off his broomstick. The captain, who had been trying to block Aaron, ended up intercepting the two bludgers that were targeting him. This unexpected turn of events made Aaron realize he had misjudged Marcus. Despite his curses, Marcus had shown a surprising level of consideration by physically blocking the bludgers for Aaron, a new player who had not yet officially joined the team. It was the first time in Aaron's life that he had encountered such a supportive senior. Chapter 27. Boys should be hard on themselves. Relying on the tactics of sacrificing one to defeat many, Aaron and the academy team fought fiercely for more than an hour. Finally, Aaron managed to catch the golden snitch just ahead of Terrence, though it cost him a broken right arm from a bludger. He shrugged and stretched his one good arm, exhaustedly controlling his broom to fly to the bottom of the court. As his tense spirit suddenly relaxed, he almost failed to stand and staggered, collapsing onto the lawn below. Abe rushed over immediately, looking at him worriedly. Then, turning around, he showed a fierce expression to the 6 players who flew down one after another. This was the first time Abe had gotten angry, and several fangs protruded from his mouth, stretching the sides of his clothes a little. Seeing this, Aaron pressed his left hand on Abe's back and silently shook his head, signaling him not to reveal his wings. "I'm sorry, seniors. It seems I won this game by luck again," Aaron said, enduring the pain in his arm and gritting his teeth to show a smile. "Everyone, don't forget our bet. Don't call me to participate in training, and you can't foul during the official game." Everyone in the academy team remained silent, even the usually mighty Marcus. Though they didn't want to admit it, they had all lost to this first-year freshman tonight. The reason was simple. They weren't as ruthless as he was. After Marcus was shot down, the remaining 6 players were shocked and angry, immediately stepping up their retaliation. Initially, they just wanted to beat Aaron after having some fun, but they didn't expect him to be much more difficult than they thought. He repeatedly survived in the cracks, and as they all started to feel tired in the later stages, they were powerless to stop him. Gradually, he had the opportunity to chase the golden snitch. Although there wasn't much time, it was much better than preventing Terrence from catching it at the beginning. In the last few seconds before the end of the game, the golden snitch and the 2 bludgers got very close. As a seeker, Terrence was also a little timid in the face of this situation. He didn't dare to approach and could only follow closely behind. On the other hand, Aaron seized the opportunity and rushed over, grabbing the snitch under everyone's disbelieving eyes. No surprises, 2 bludgers attacked at the same time. Aaron narrowly avoided the first one, but was hit by the second one on his right arm, the sound of the fracture echoing clearly on the court. But he didn't make a sound and decisively stretched out his left hand, caught the golden snitch, and won the match. Putting themselves in his shoes, they realized they didn't have that kind of guts. Because this was just an ordinary game. No, it wasn't even an ordinary game. They had no reason to take such risks. Even in really big games, they wouldn't have the guts to pay the price of an arm for a small chance of victory. But Aaron did just that, and he succeeded. After more than 2 hours of the game, they didn't think Aaron was brainless and would only grab the ball with a rush of momentum. Clearly, he had figured out what the cost would be before he acted. Is this really an 11-year-old? Does he have to be so hard on himself? Through this crazy move, these 7 pretentious Slytherins realized that Aaron was not someone they could afford to make. "Since you don't speak, I'll take it as your acquiescence," Aaron said, standing up slowly. "Don't worry, they'll keep their word," Snape said, then looked at Marcus. "Know what to do before the Quidditch match. You are the captain. I hope you can set an example. If you can't even complete this simple request, then don't call me a student of Snape Severus in the future." "Understood." Marcus nodded. He knew that from now on, they would no longer be able to play side by side. If they wanted to achieve good results, they could only train hard. "Don't let me down," Snape said lightly, then supported Aaron. "Your condition is not very good. I'll take you to the infirmary first." "Okay, I feel like my arm is about to break." Aaron grinned in pain. "It's about to break?" Mr. Gaius, you should be more confident. It's already broken. Aaron smiled bitterly. Professor, if you were more reliable and saved me in time, this incident wouldn't have happened. Hearing this, Snape's face became stern. You hit it yourself. None of us anticipated it, so I can't be held responsible. Besides, didn't you call for help? Okay, you're right about that, but I can't say no to you. But, Professor, you really don't know what humor is. When the two arrived at the infirmary, Madame Pomfrey hurried over. As an experienced school nurse, she immediately understood what had happened when she saw Aaron's arm. She said angrily, "How long has school started? A first-year kid playing Quidditch and breaking his arm." Madame Pomfrey, I know better than you what's wrong with my student, Snape said flatly. If you want to teach him a lesson, do it later. It's almost curfew, and I don't want to send him to the waiting room again. Can you treat him quickly and give him the fastest-acting medicine? Wait a minute, Madame Pomfrey said. She went to a shelf, took out a small bottle of red medicine, and handed it directly to Aaron. Drink it, and then rest for a night. It should be almost healed. But for the next 2 days, it's best not to use your right arm too much, or you might have to do it again. Understood, Aaron said sincerely. Without hesitation, he grabbed the bottle and drank it in one gulp. The taste of the medicine was weird, bitter and astringent, extremely unpleasant, but the effect was immediate. Not 10 seconds after drinking, Aaron felt a warm sensation in his arm. The pain was replaced by a light itching, and he could even do some light activities. Need a bandage for your arm? Madame Pomfrey asked. This is unnecessary. If you don't want to go to the waiting room, you can recuperate in the infirmary for 2 days. I believe Professor Snape will prepare a note for you. Aaron was a little moved. After all, he was injured, and it would be great to take 2 days of sick leave. There were no particularly important lessons in the first-year courses, and most of the knowledge could be obtained from books. But looking at the empty white hospital beds, he always felt a little weird at night. Although there was no shortage of ghosts at Hogwarts, this environment really affected his mood, and the beds in the dormitory were much more comforting. Thank you very much for your advice, Madame Pomfrey. However, I don't want people to know that I'm hurt. Besides, I don't have any serious problems now, so I won't delay my classes. Madame Pomfrey smiled. Okay, little wizard, since you are so assertive, I won't keep you. There are still 10 minutes before curfew, and you still have time to go back. Understood, Aaron said, then got up and walked towards the door. What he didn't expect was that Snape's usually stern face actually softened as he escorted him all the way to the door of the lounge without saying a word. It was clear that he cared about his students very much, but he was extremely bad at expressing it. Professor, if you didn't always put on a cold face, you would definitely be more popular than anyone else, Aaron said meaningfully. Oh, do you think I care about you? No kidding. I was just worried that you might get lost or not make it back to the common room in time. If Filch caught you, it would be a disgrace to Slytherin. Yes, you are the professor. You are right, Aaron said hastily, then made a gesture of invitation, but not to the inside, rather to the side passage. After all, this was the Slytherin common room. Aaron knew better than to invite the stern Professor Snape into the students' common room. It would likely give many of his peers nightmares. Snape, with his usual blank expression, hummed and left. Aaron recited the password, opened the door, and quietly made his way to his dormitory. As luck would have it, he ran into Malfoy, who looked unexpectedly fatigued. What are you doing here? Why did you come back so late? Malfoy asked. Aaron glared at him. Thanks to you, Professor Snape wanted me to join the academy team, so he pulled me over for the team test. More than 2 hours. I'm almost exhausted. Malfoy's eyes darted away, a mix of embarrassment and anticipation on his face. You must have passed the test. Of course, Aaron replied. The seniors on the house team have all agreed to let me be Slytherin's seeker. Great, Malfoy said excitedly. With your help, Harry Potter will definitely be defeated. Aaron couldn't help but think, how much does this brat hate Harry Potter? But he brushed it off, reminding himself that they were all just 11-year-old kids. Ahem, we'll talk about this later. You must keep the fact that I am the Slytherin seeker a secret. I don't want too many people to know before the official match. Don't worry, My mouth is always the strictest, Malfoy assured, patting his chest. For some reason, seeing Malfoy's earnest expression, Aaron felt a pang of doubt. He wasn't entirely convinced that Malfoy could keep a secret. Chapter 28. Voldemort's Object of Attachment. More than a month had passed, and Christmas Eve had arrived. Today's Defense Against the Dark Arts class was a joint session for Slytherin and Ravenclaw. Professor Quirrell, still wrapped in his thick purple turban, was holding a large chameleon and stumbling through the theory of the defense against the dark arts. Despite his unique speech pattern, this class was quite interesting compared to the monotonous astronomy and history of magic classes. Especially the history of magic. What was the school thinking, inviting a ghost to teach? Although ghosts have more experience than the living, the ghost in charge of teaching often went off topic halfway through the lecture. Professor Quirrell seemed to be in poor health, weaker than usual, as if recovering from a serious illness. Aaron wasn't interested in the professor's private matters, but something else caught his attention. When Professor Quirrell paced near Aaron's desk, Abe, who had been napping, suddenly stood up. The cat stood on the table, baring its teeth at Professor Quirrell, its eyes fixed on his turban. "Mr. Gaius, what's wrong with your cat?" Quirrell asked nervously, taking a step back involuntarily. Aaron quickly picked up Abe, feeling a bit embarrassed. "Professor, my cat has been eating garlic recently, and the smell on your body, it's really too strong." Aaron didn't believe his own words. They had been attending this class for weeks, and Abe had never behaved like this before. Moreover, their cat never ate garlic. "Is that so?" Quirrell swallowed, eyeing the ferocious cat that seemed ready to pounce. "I'm really sorry. Should I stay away?" "That might be best," Aaron replied with a wry smile, moving Abe to the other corner of the table. "It's better to keep some distance." As the distance between them increased, both Aaron and Abe seemed to return to normal. Abe still held a trace of hostility, but Aaron noticed a flash of light in Professor Quirrell's eyes. The cold, murderous look made Aaron's body tremble subconsciously. Damn! Professor Quirrell is definitely not as simple as he appears. His submissiveness might be an act. There is something seriously wrong with this guy. Otherwise, Abe wouldn't react so strongly to him. Suddenly, a thought struck Aaron. Could Professor Quirrell be the object of Voldemort's possession? The possibility seemed very high. Aaron felt a cold sweat break out on his back, but quickly adjusted his demeanor. If his conjecture was correct, he couldn't let Quirrell notice anything unusual, or he might have to face Voldemort prematurely. Although Voldemort's goal was to steal the Sorcerer's Stone, and he wouldn't expose himself easily before achieving it, Aaron couldn't take any chances. Fortunately, Quirrell focused most of his attention on Abe and didn't pay much attention to Aaron. He didn't notice the myriad of expressions that crossed Aaron's face in those brief moments. Aaron's psychological resilience was commendable. He behaved normally until the end of the class and left without incident. "I was scared to death. I thought Quirrell would keep me." Aaron thought with lingering fear, but felt relieved. As long as Quirrell had no suspicions this time, Aaron was confident he wouldn't show any flaws in future encounters. For now, it was best to let things take their natural course. The afternoon class was Charms. After a long period of basic study, Professor Flitwick was finally ready to teach the new students Charms. In the classroom, Gryffindor and Slytherin students sat on opposite sides, each with a white feather on their desks. Professor Flitwick, who was as small as a dwarf, stood atop a pile of books to give his lecture. As magicians, one of the basic skills you must master is levitation, the ability to make objects fly. "Did everyone get their feathers?" he asked. Hermione immediately raised her feather, giving Professor Flitwick a good look. "Very good," he said. "Now, don't forget the wrist movement we've been practicing. First wave, then flick. See, ohm together." Professor Flitwick drew out his wand to demonstrate. "You have to recite the spell clearly, Wingardium Leviosa. Practice it." Suddenly, the classroom was filled with students waving their wands and casting spells on the feathers in front of them. Aaron smiled and shook his head. He had known these simple spells for years. He even used this levitation spell to fly a kite when he was just a child. He waved his wand lightly, without even saying the spell, and the white feather floated up, slowly rising to the ceiling before stopping. Everyone stopped what they were doing and watched the feather floating in the air. While marveling at Aaron's talent, they couldn't help but feel a little frustrated. "Great, everyone. Look here. Mr. Gaius has succeeded," Professor Flitwick said excitedly. Encouraged, everyone tried harder. Ron chanted the spell, but he obviously forgot the wrist movement. His wand kept flicking, making a rustling sound in the air. "No, stop! You're going to poke someone's eye out," Hermione, who was sitting next to him, interrupted. "Besides, you mispronounced it. It's Leviosa, not Laviosa." "You're so smart, so give it a try," Ron said, unconvinced. Hermione didn't say much. She just picked up her wand, shook her wrist briskly, and said, "Wingardium Leviosa." The next moment, another feather flew into the air. Ron was dumbfounded and pouted at his textbook. The third person to succeed was Draco Malfoy, but he looked at Hermione with dissatisfaction. Although he was the third to succeed, the gap between him and Aaron and Hermione was still noticeable. Both of them had succeeded on their first try, but he had needed at least 5 attempts. "Your first use of this spell is pretty good," Aaron comforted him. "But Draco began. "Draco, your talent is quite good, but Hermione spends all her time reading books, except for eating, going to class, and sleeping. If you put in the same effort, you would be just as good as anyone else." Malfoy froze for a moment, then looked at Hermione in astonishment and murmured, "Why was she assigned to Gryffindor? Shouldn't she be in Ravenclaw?" "Who knows? Maybe her courage outweighs her thirst for knowledge," Aaron replied. After getting a barely plausible answer, Malfoy stopped talking and silently turned his head to instruct his 2 followers to learn the spell. Boom! A bright light flashed suddenly, and the loud noise startled everyone. Professor Flitwick almost fell off his pile of books. Everyone looked towards the source of the noise and saw Simon's face was scorched black. He sat in a daze, with his hair standing on end, motionless as if he was frightened. The feathers on his desk had been reduced to ashes. His deskmate, Harry Potter, was also affected, with half of his face turned black. "We still need a feather here, Professor Flitwick," Harry said. Seeing this, Aaron shook his head silently. Simon's talent for magic spells was truly unique. If there were 10 explosions in the classroom, he was responsible for at least 5 of them. After class, Ron walked down the corridor with a dissatisfied expression and said to Harry, Simon, and a Gryffindor friend, "It's Leviosa, not Laviosa. What a know-it-all. I can't stand her. No wonder she doesn't have many friends." At that moment, Hermione walked past them quickly, clutching her book tightly. Hermione's arms brushed against Harry's, and she nudged him gently. Her complexion was pale, and there was a hint of sobbing in her voice. "I think she heard," said Harry. "So what? She doesn't have any friends," Ron replied, his face twisted with resentment. Ahem. Aaron's voice interrupted them. They hadn't noticed when he appeared behind them. "That statement is incorrect. At the very least, I am her friend. Also, I have a suggestion for you. If you don't want to lose Hermione as a friend, you should go and apologize to her. Speaking ill of people behind their backs is not good behavior." "Why?" Ron's eyes darted around nervously, but upon seeing the Slytherin uniform Aaron was wearing, he stiffened. "I'm not wrong, and it's not up to a Slytherin to tell us Gryffindors what to do." "Oh, is that what you think?" Aaron sneered. "I initially wanted to help ease the tension between you and Malfoy, but now it seems I may have been mistaken." With that, Aaron turned and walked away without looking back. Harry wanted to call out to him, but he hesitated and remained silent. Chapter 29. Troll's Haunt. I didn't expect you to have this habit. As night fell, all the students gathered in the auditorium for the Halloween banquet. The school had transformed the ceiling into a Halloween spectacle. When you looked up, you could see clusters of dark clouds slowly drifting in the dark purple light, with silver lightning occasionally flashing across the sky. The candles that usually hung in the auditorium were now encased in pumpkins, their flickering flames adding a festive touch to the atmosphere. But the real highlight was the feast itself, which was as lavish as the one at the beginning of the school year. Everyone enjoyed the food with great relish, and the atmosphere was quite cheerful. Aaron noticed that Hermione was absent from the Gryffindor table and couldn't help but frown. "Aaron, what's wrong? Are you okay?" Draco asked. "It's nothing," Aaron responded, then walked over to Harry and asked in a low voice, "Why isn't Hermione here?" I don't know. She didn't come to class this afternoon, Harry replied. I know. Neville, who was sitting nearby, raised his hand and said, Parvati said she refused to come out of the toilet. Hermione's been hiding in there all afternoon, crying. Aaron was stunned and looked at Ron, who was eating happily, with some dissatisfaction. Is it so difficult for you to apologize? Even if you don't apologize, can't you comfort her? Ron shrugged helplessly, indicating that he hadn't expected Hermione to be so sensitive. At that moment, the door was suddenly pushed open, and Professor Quirrell ran in, shouting in panic, Troll! It's in the basement! There are trolls in the basement! His words immediately captured everyone's attention. Students and teachers alike stared at him in shock, unable to react. Got it? Professor Quirrell's voice lowered before his body went limp, and he passed out. Panic filled the room as students looked at the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor lying on the ground. Even the senior students were not immune to the fear. Trolls were magical creatures that even adult wizards might struggle to handle. The presence of such a giant monster roaming uncontrollably in the school meant their lives could be in danger at any moment. It would be a lie to say they weren't afraid. Silence. Dumbledore stood up from the master's seat, and the students who were about to run outside stopped in their tracks. The most powerful white mage of the century still commanded great respect, and his 2 words calmed everyone down. Please don't panic. Prefects, lead the students of your respective houses back to their dormitories. Teachers, follow me to the basement. Order was restored instantly. The prefects stood up and organized the students to leave in an orderly manner. The teachers, looking serious, followed Dumbledore to the basement. Snape, however, quickly walked to the side door while no one was paying attention. But just as he was about to reach it, a white figure stood in his way. Get out of the way! Snape glared at Aaron and tried to move forward quickly. Professor Snape, where are you going? Aaron asked, a hint of anxiety in his voice. This has nothing to do with you. Go back to your dormitory. That's where you should be now. Snape replied, clearly irritated. No, it should have something to do with me at this time, Aaron said seriously. Are you kidding? Snape's face darkened. I'm warning you one last time. Stay out of the way. I'm not blocking the way, Aaron said, picking up Abe unhurriedly. Do you remember what you promised me? To help me unconditionally before the end of this semester. Snape froze for a moment, hesitated, and then said, Does it have anything to do with the troll? Aaron nodded affirmatively and said, I don't know how urgent your matter is, but Headmaster Dumbledore isn't worried, so why should you be? My matter is truly urgent. Snape seemed to be awakened by Aaron's words. The anxious look on his face faded a little. That's right. That thing is incredibly important, and Dumbledore knows it, has value better than anyone. If something happened, the old guy would definitely be more anxious than I am. But he's so calm now, which means he's confident there won't be any mistakes, at least not now. All right, Mr. Gaius. What do you want me to do for you? Snape asked. Aaron breathed a sigh of relief and said with an embarrassed smile, Professor, are you interested in going to the women's bathroom with me? Huh? A strange smile appeared on Snape's usually icy face, and the corners of his mouth twitched. I may have misheard. What was the place you mentioned just now? The women's bathroom? I really didn't expect you to have such a weird fetish. Is it really appropriate to let me know? Or is it really right for you to waste this opportunity? You should know how important a favor from a potion master is. To be honest, as long as there are enough materials, I can even make a bottle of Felix Felicis for you. And your family should have no shortage of these materials. Hearing this, Aaron became more and more embarrassed. Don't get me wrong, our family doesn't have Felix Felicis. No, I'm not a pervert. Hermione Granger doesn't know about the troll coming out. She should be in the toilet now. Sometimes you have to be prepared for the worst. With my current ability, I'm not confident I can defeat the troll, but you definitely can. So I can only ask you. Snape took a deep look at Aaron, not knowing what he was thinking, and finally heaved a long sigh. Let's go. Aaron nodded and then led the way. Meanwhile, Harry, who had followed the prefect Percy to the dormitory, suddenly thought of Hermione's situation. He persuaded his good friend Ron with a few words and managed to avoid Percy's sight by mixing into the crowd. Then, the two rushed to the corridor on one side at a faster pace, intending to find and notify Hermione of the presence of the troll. In this way, the two groups of people rushed to the women's toilet one after another with the same purpose. Aaron and Snape arrived first and were very lucky to find a huge monster that was 3 to 4 meters high. The giant monster looked stupid, with bubbles on its nose and 2 ragged and irreparable clothes on its gray-green body, which looked particularly eye-catching. It held a thick wooden stick in its hand and dragged it slowly forward. An indescribable stench emanated from its body, and the two of them could smell it even from more than 10 meters away. If I had to describe it, it would be the smell of decades-old stinky socks, decades-old clothes, and decades-old swill. In short, it was not generally disgusting, and even Aaron buried his nose under his clothes. With an unusually sensitive sense of smell, he felt greatly hurt. "Ouch! It can't be such a coincidence," Aaron said with a wry smile. "It's not a good idea for this giant monster to go anywhere, so why does it have to go to the women's restroom?" "It turns out that it's such a coincidence," Snape said with a sullen face. He was a little lucky to have followed Aaron, otherwise Hogwarts might have had a murder case. "Professor, it's finally time for you to show your talents. Let's go. Snape Severus, let me see the strength of the head of Slytherin." "Hearing you say that, I always feel weird." "What time is it now? Don't worry about it. Anyway, Professor, if you slow down for a few seconds, the troll will be in the women's room. At that time, if we want to save people again, we will have to change the battlefield. Of course, if there are no accidents, I will definitely not enter the women's bathroom to hinder your heroic battle." Snape snorted, glaring at Aaron as he pulled out his wand. "Stupefy," he commanded. A pale white light shot from the tip of his wand, striking the troll on the head. The spell caused the giant creature to stare blankly, but despite staggering a few times, it didn't collapse. Instead, its steps became unsteady, and it wobbled as it walked. The blow, however, did attract the troll's attention, and in a rage, it turned and lumbered towards Snape and Aaron. "Professor," Aaron exclaimed, drawing his black wand, "I can handle this too. If you can't manage it, I'll lure it away, and you can rescue him." "Shut up," Snape hissed. "Although this creature has some degree of magic resistance, it's only at the level of a high-level magician. Plus, it has almost no intelligence. You can handle it if you're careful, let alone me. But it's school property. If we can avoid it, we should capture it alive." At that moment, the troll reached them, swinging its wooden club down at them without a word. "Petrificus totalis!" Snape and Aaron shouted in unison, their wands emitting 2 beams of light, one white and one blue, which drove the troll back. "Stupefy!" They both cast again, just as the troll was about to rise. This time, the combined force of their spells overwhelmed the creature's magic resistance. Its eyes rolled back, and it collapsed to the ground, unconscious. Chapter 30 Boom! A loud bang echoed through the corridor. Aaron stared at the giant monster, which had succumbed after only 5 spells. Instead of feeling triumphant, he felt a pang of disappointment. A troll that can't even handle an adult wizard? It's just here to scare children, Aaron thought. With such low combat power and IQ, anyone who knows a few serious spells can take it down. What a waste. I had planned to use this opportunity to confront Voldemort's remnant soul, Professor Quirrell, but now it feels like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. "Oh, this is a big loss," Aaron sighed. In stark contrast, Snape was in high spirits. "Ahem, Mr. Gaius, after this, I owe you nothing," he declared. "I understand, Professor. Thank you for your generous help," Aaron replied. At that moment, Hermione emerged from the women's restroom. Her eyes widened in shock at the sight of the giant monster lying in the doorway, and she let out a long scream. "Ah!" "It's okay, Hermione," Aaron quickly reassured her. "Everything's fine." "What happened here?" Hermione asked, clutching her heart in fear. Aaron explained the situation. As she listened, Hermione felt a wave of gratitude towards Aaron. She realized that without his intervention, she might have been in serious danger. What surprised her even more was that Professor Snape, who was usually at odds with Gryffindor, had come to her rescue. "Thank you, Aaron," Hermione said sincerely. She then turned to Snape, her expression conflicted. "Thank you too, Professor Snape." Snape froze for a moment before snorting softly. His eyes, however, betrayed a more complex emotion. I didn't come here specifically to save you. I was merely fulfilling a promise, he said arrogantly. Honestly, Miss Granger, I should thank you. What Mr. Gaius asked me to do was simpler than I expected. Aaron's eyes twitched. Professor, is that really necessary? He wondered why someone who was clearly kind-hearted insisted on appearing cold. Snape didn't respond. He simply gave them a long, hard look before turning and leaving. Just then, Harry and Ron arrived, nearly colliding with Snape. Seeing the two Gryffindors, especially Harry Potter, Snape's mood darkened instantly. Why are you two here? I recall Dumbledore instructing all students to return to their dormitories under the prefect's guidance. Do you think you can ignore the headmaster's orders? Snape demanded. Harry stammered, unable to find the words. Ron, who didn't like Snape but feared him, was equally speechless. They had only intended to warn Hermione, but now they were caught by Snape. Their luck couldn't have been worse. Why don't you explain? Snape pressed on. We came to warn Hermione about the troll in the school, Harry said boldly. Ah! Snape raised his voice, pointing at the troll's lifeless body with a sneer. So you think you can defeat that troll? If Aaron and I hadn't arrived in time, you and Miss Granger would have been killed by this monster. Harry and Ron looked at the massive troll and lowered their heads in shame. Snape, satisfied with their reaction, allowed a slight smirk to form on his lips before saying coldly, 5 points will be deducted from Gryffindor. You can't do this, Harry protested, his face flushed with anger. 5 points was a significant loss, especially since they hadn't lost that many points since the start of the school year. Yes, it is indeed biased, Snape nodded approvingly. It should be 5 points deducted for each of you, making it 10 points in total. Points will be deducted for the two of you. Of course, you can protest if you think your life is worth less than these 10 points, Snape said with a sneer. Harry and Ron exchanged glances but remained silent. No one would argue that points were more important than their lives. What about him? Ron pointed at Aaron, his voice tinged with anger. Didn't Aaron come over too? Why doesn't he lose points? Mr. Weasley, I'm actually glad you asked that, Snape replied, a smirk playing on his lips. Because I came with Aaron. Is that reason enough? Ron looked at Aaron, a Slytherin student, and then at Snape, the Slytherin head of house. Realization dawned on him. Yes, they had brought a professor along, which meant they had thought things through. Unlike him and Harry, who had sneaked in without informing anyone, leaving them unprotected. Their actions could be seen as either brave or foolish, depending on one's perspective. Despite understanding this, Ron was still visibly upset. He opened his mouth to argue, but Harry placed a hand on his arm, stopping him. Ron reluctantly held his tongue. At that moment, Professor McGonagall and Professor Quirrell arrived. They both looked relieved to see that no students were injured. Professor McGonagall's stern gaze fell on Harry and Ron. What happened? You three had better explain yourselves. Professor, Hermione began, intending to defend Harry and Ron, but Snape's glare silenced her. She bit her lip, feeling frustrated but unwilling to provoke further trouble. Professor McGonagall, I think our Slytherin student should explain, Snape interjected, his voice dripping with pride. Mr. Gaius has always been a good student, and I trust he will tell the truth, unlike some who might bend it to avoid criticism. Very well. Aaron, can you tell me what happened? Professor McGonagall asked. Aaron glanced at the guilty-looking Harry and Ron, then at Hermione, whose eyes were still wet with tears. He sighed. Professor, today is Halloween, and it's quite late. Perhaps we could explain tomorrow. The three of us boys are fine, but Hermione has been quite frightened and needs rest. Aaron! Snape's voice was sharp with displeasure. This was a prime opportunity to humiliate Gryffindor, especially with Harry Potter involved. Professor Snape, you've already deducted 10 points from them. They've received their punishment, Aaron said, noticing Snape's cold expression. He quickly added, I think it would be better for them to admit their mistakes to Professor McGonagall in person. After all, only the two of us know the full story, and they likely won't lie. Snape reluctantly agreed. Although he knew Professor McGonagall would be lenient, the truth would still anger her, and that anger would be directed at Harry and Ron. That was satisfaction enough for him. Then you have a day to think about how to explain it to your headmaster, Snape said, turning on his heel and leaving the corridor. You two, take care of yourselves. Professor McGonagall said coldly to Harry and Ron. Her expression softened as she turned to Hermione. Miss Granger, you must be terrified. Go back and rest. Thank you, Professor, Hermione replied weakly, nodding. Go away. It's not dead yet. Professor Quirrell muttered resentfully. At that moment, the troll lying on the ground suddenly snored, causing the defense against the dark arts professor to tremble. The three professors left one after another, while Aaron and the others slowly made their way back to their dormitory. On the way, Hermione couldn't help but ask, what agreement did you reach with Professor Snape? Hey, speaking of that, I feel a bit panicked, Aaron said helplessly. Hearing this, both Harry and Ron became intrigued and looked at him curiously, hoping he would elaborate. All right, but you must keep it a secret. Professor Snape asked me to be the seeker for the Slytherin house team, and I agreed, but I asked him to help me unconditionally once during this school year. Of course, it has to be within his capabilities. So, what you asked him to do was to come and save me? Hermione's face was a mix of emotions. She realized the favor she owed this time seemed quite significant. Exactly. I've heard the legends about trolls. I was afraid I couldn't handle it, so I asked Professor Snape for help. Now it seems it was unnecessary. I think I could have dealt with it myself, but it feels like a waste of a favor from a potions master. Both Harry and Ron were taken aback by this revelation, but they were worried about something else. Ron becoming Slytherin Seeker meant he would be Harry's Quidditch opponent, which was not good news. Chapter 31. Equipment can't make up for the gap in strength after Halloween. Hermione gradually forgave Ron and Harry, and the relationship between the three became less strained. Aaron also left an indelible impression on Hermione's heart during this time, though he was unaware of it. In his view, their friendship was still at the stage of good friends, far from any deeper connection. For Aaron, signing in and becoming stronger was far more important. It is worth mentioning that Harry and Ron's views on Snape had also changed slightly. Perhaps he wasn't as annoying as they once thought. After all, the Slytherin head saving a Gryffindor student before everyone else could explain a lot. The next day, in the Great Hall, the atmosphere was more lively than usual, even though it was breakfast time. The Quidditch season was about to start, and the first game was Gryffindor versus Slytherin. Harry sat at the dining table, looking absent-minded. His plate was full of exquisite food, but he had no appetite. Eat some toast. Eat quickly, Ron urged. Ron's right, Harry. You have a big match later, Hermione added. But I'm not hungry, Harry replied. Snape walked over with a playful smile on his face. Good luck today, Potter. As the famous Harry Potter, I believe a little Quidditch is a piece of cake for you, even if the opponent is Slytherin. After Snape said this, he walked towards the teacher's table, leaving the three of them staring at each other. He still hasn't changed. He's weird, Ron snorted with some displeasure. It's as if Slytherin has already won. Don't say that. Aaron's flying skills are very good, Harry said. Today was his first match, and he was already nervous enough, especially since his opponent was someone with flying talent not weaker than his own. So what? Ron was still unconvinced, though his voice softened a bit. Fred and George also inquired about Slytherin's training. They found out that Aaron had never participated in it. No way. Harry's eyes widened in disbelief. Could it be secret training? No. I asked specifically. Wood attaches great importance to this Quidditch match. Almost every day, he sends people to the court to monitor the personnel and training situation of each house. Before today, the original Slytherin players were still active on the training ground, and the Seeker was still Terrence. But their training was really hard, much harder than before, Ron explained. Harry thought for a moment, feeling a bit relieved. According to this, Aaron may have temporarily joined the team. That's right, Ron patted his chest. So be more confident. No matter how good his flying talent is, he can't be your opponent after several weeks of training. Is that so? Harry's confidence surged, and he felt his appetite returning. I think it's better not to guess casually. Your guess may not be correct. It's not the first day you know Aaron. Would he do something so uncertain? Hermione suddenly interjected, pouring cold water on Harry's newfound confidence. Hermione, Ron rolled his eyes. Don't make others proud and destroy your own prestige. Aaron hasn't participated in training for more than a month. I know I'm being blunt, but what about Snape? Do you think Professor Snape would pick any random first year as seeker? Hermione asked. Harry and Ron were speechless, and their hearts grew heavy. How about you, Hermione? Ask Aaron what he has prepared for the Quidditch match for more than a month, Ron suggested weakly. You have the best relationship with him. Maybe if you ask, he'll tell you. Oh, Hermione showed a hint of sarcasm. Sometimes I really wonder if you're an idiot. No matter how you look at it, this kind of thing is a team secret. The game is about to start, and you want me to find out the news? What's the difference between that and asking him to betray his teammates? Temporarily? Harry, you're a seeker too. Do you think it's okay for me to do this? Of course not, Harry replied. Ron couldn't hold back anymore and said angrily, I'm just curious. After all, it's about Gryffindor's honor. Suddenly the sound of birdsong filled the air, and Harry's owl, Hedwig, flew over with a long package, placing it in front of Harry's dining table. Mail this early in the morning? Hermione said in surprise. But I've never had any mail. Harry was even more surprised, wondering who could have sent him this package. What would his uncle's house send him? Don't be ridiculous. Their family wished he would die outside and never come back. Open it first, Ron said, and then he eagerly tore open the package. After a moment, an exquisite flying broom appeared before the three of them. It's no ordinary broom, Harry. It's the Nimbus 2000. Ron pointed to the Nimbus 2000 logo on the end of the broom, his face almost overflowing with excitement. But who gave it to you? Harry murmured. At that moment, he suddenly thought of something, turned his head to look at the teacher's desk, and found that Professor McGonagall was smiling at him. He understood a lot in an instant. When Snape saw the brand-new broom, he couldn't help but get a few black lines on his forehead. Minerva, you are really generous enough to give away a Nimbus 2000 just like that? It's not as good as you. The secrecy work is very good. I didn't even know that you changed the seeker temporarily, Professor McGonagall replied. Temporary? Snape smiled slightly. This term is not very strict. Aaron joined the academy team more than a month ago, not long after you made an exception and recruited Harry Potter into the academy team. McGonagall frowned. She didn't know this, but if Aaron could make Snape pay so much attention to him, he shouldn't be weak, at least a little stronger than Trunce. But she took a look at the Nimbus 2000 that she bought with a huge sum of money and couldn't help but feel a lot more confident. Although equipment cannot determine everything, when there is not much difference in strength, the side with better equipment can often have more advantages. Harry Potter has the highest flying talent among the Gryffindor first years, and he can definitely make good use of this broomstick. In any case, the champion of this Quidditch match must be Gryffindor, Professor McGonagall said confidently, absolutely unwilling to lose in terms of momentum. I'll wait and see, Snape said coldly, then walked towards Aaron. Aaron was eating breakfast calmly when he suddenly noticed that the surroundings had become quiet. There was an extra figure in front of the dining table, so he put down his fork helplessly. Professor Snape, do you know that suddenly appearing behind someone while they're eating is rude? Harry Potter has a new Nimbus 2000. You'd better pay attention during the game later. In case of losing. No chance. I won't lose. To give a simple example, even if a freshman has an Elder Wand in his hand, he is no match for a prefect. Humph. Snape raised his eyebrows, but breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. You are quite confident. I hope your performance on the field will not disappoint Slytherin. Of course not. I usually don't make promises lightly, but I will definitely do what I promise, Aaron said lightly, with an undeniable tone. Snape nodded in satisfaction and left the auditorium straight away. After Snape left, Draco approached. Aaron, what you said just now was so domineering that even Professor Snape was intimidated. Oh, there is no way. After all, I have been self-reliant since I was a child, Aaron said with emotion. My parents are away for long periods, and I am the one who greets guests when they come to the house. As the number of times increased, I slowly learned the art of speaking. To put it simply, talk to people when you see people, and talk to ghosts when you see ghosts. Draco swallowed. It's not easy for you. It's not easy, but who made me an only child? Although, reluctant as I am, I want to inherit and carry forward the glory of the Gaius family. Don't you feel the same? Malfoy lowered his head silently. While feeling ashamed of himself, he was also thankful for his fortunate birth as the heir of the Malfoy family. The pure bloodline, unbroken for thousands of years, was an unparalleled glory. In other words, as long as they didn't make any major mistakes, this glory could be passed on. However, there was still a long way to go to fully restore the Malfoy family's former prestige. His great-grandfather had passed the task on to his grandfather, who then passed it on to his father. Now, it seemed his father wanted to pass it on to him. The thought made Draco shudder. No, this curse must end with his generation. What's the matter with you? Are you feeling unwell? No, I just suddenly realized something, Draco replied. Good, as long as you're okay. Do me a little favor. I'll be playing in a while, and I need you to take care of Abe for me, Aaron said, pulling Abe out from under the table. This. Draco looked at Ab, who was too cute to resist, and nodded in a daze. Chapter 32. Slytherin vs. Gryffindor. At 11 o'clock, the Quidditch pitch was buzzing with excitement. Quidditch, the most popular sport in the wizarding world, had drawn nearly the entire school to the stadium. The principal, the heads of houses, professors, and various staff members sat in the upper stands, while most of the lower-grade students filled the seats below. Even the giant Hagrid, who enjoyed the lively atmosphere, was present in the lower stands with a pair of binoculars. In the Slytherin locker room, Aaron reluctantly donned the green team uniform. "Don't we have uniforms in other colors?" he asked with a hint of disgust. "No," Terence replied firmly. "Red, green, yellow, and blue represent the 4 houses, and the green uniform is exclusive to Slytherin. This tradition has been unchanged for thousands of years." "That's really a pity. To be honest, I don't like this color," Aaron muttered. "You have to wear it whether you like it or not," Captain Marcus interjected. He then addressed the team. "I won't say much else. This time, we might face a tougher challenge compared to the past, but we've undergone rigorous training, and with the most powerful seeker in the history of the Academy, Aaron Gaius, I don't see why we should lose. Slytherin must win, and this year's trophy will belong to us." The team members exchanged confident smiles, already envisioning their victory over Gryffindor. "Ahem! Not to dampen the mood, but we should still pay attention to our opponents if we want to win," Aaron said, earning a few sullen looks from his teammates. They clearly underestimated their rivals. "Okay, pretend I didn't say anything," Aaron added with a sneer. Despite his teammates' arrogance, their flying skills were commendable. More importantly, Aaron had confidence in his own abilities. He could score 150 points and end the game by catching the golden snitch, effectively controlling the game's outcome. As long as the score difference was within 150 points, he could turn the tide. A few minutes later, the Gryffindor and Slytherin teams flew above the field on their broomsticks. The audience's cheers grew louder, like a roaring fire. "Hi, this is Hogwarts' first Quidditch match of the season. Today's match is between Slytherin and Gryffindor," the commentator, Jordan, announced excitedly. The 2 teams hovered in the air for a moment before taking their positions. 2 beaters, 3 chasers, and a keeper from each team faced off. Above them were the 2 seekers, Aaron Gaius and Harry Potter. Harry Potter appeared a bit cautious. Although his skills had improved significantly after more than a month of training, this was his first official competition, and he felt nervous in front of the crowd. "Harry, you seem a little nervous," Aaron observed. "A little bit. Aren't you nervous?" "I heard from Ron that you never went to training," Harry replied. I don't feel nervous at all. This is just a small scene. As for not participating in training, the Academy team has confidence in me. In fact, I'm quite confident myself," Aaron laughed. He then noticed the Nimbus 2000 trademark on Harry's broom and raised an eyebrow. "Nice broom." Harry smiled awkwardly. Aaron's broom was an older Nimbus series model, slightly slower than his own. "The players on both sides are already in place, and now Professor Hooch is stepping onto the field. The game is about to start," Jordan announced. Both seekers looked down to see Madame Hooch approaching a wooden box. She glanced up at them and said, "I hope both sides can compete with both skill and sportsmanship." As she spoke, she opened the box and the game began. Professor Hooch kicked the wooden box, releasing the bludger, which shot out aggressively, followed by the snitch. The snitch darted defiantly around the two seekers, Aaron and Harry. Professor Hooch then picked up the quaffle from the box and threw it into the air, signaling the official start of the game. All the players, except the seekers, immediately rushed towards the quaffle. Scoring by getting the quaffle through the opponent's goal would earn 10 points. Moments later, Gryffindor chaser Angelina seized the quaffle and charged towards the Slytherin goal. She skillfully dodged several interceptions with her agility. As she neared the goal, she threw the quaffle towards it from a few meters away. Boom! Just when everyone thought Gryffindor was about to score, the quaffle was blocked by Slytherin's goalkeeper, Blake. The quaffle was now in Slytherin's possession, and the roles of offense and defense switched instantly. Angelina sped towards Blake, but he merely smiled at her before passing the quaffle to Captain Marcus behind him. Marcus, demonstrating his excellent flying skills, started from his own goal, evading Gryffindor's pursuit and interceptions, as well as the sudden attacks from two bludgers. He crossed half the pitch and approached Gryffindor's goal. He threw the quaffle hard towards the goal, but Gryffindor's keeper, Wood, appeared just in time. He hit the ball back with his broom, and the quaffle landed back in Gryffindor's possession. Wood looked at Marcus, who was gritting his teeth in frustration, and smiled, shaking his head. Gryffindor's chasers, Katie and Arya, worked together, passing the ball around the pillars of the stands. After crossing half the court, they passed the quaffle to Angelina, who made the final throw. This time, the Slytherin keeper was a step too late, and the quaffle slid into the left goal. Ding! Beautiful! Angelina scores and Gryffindor earns 10 points, the commentator Jordan announced excitedly. He pressed the scorer, changing the score from 0 to 10 in Gryffindor's favor. Professor McGonagall, standing next to Jordan, applauded enthusiastically, and the Gryffindor supporters in the stands erupted in cheers, while Slytherin's momentum waned. The quaffle fell into the hands of former seeker Terence, who quickly adjusted and flew towards the Gryffindor goal. Montague, armed with a bat, escorted him, blocking Gryffindor's attempts to attack. Terence skillfully maneuvered past Spinnet, Katie, the Weasleys, and a bludger, finally reaching the Gryffindor goal. However, Wood once again stopped the quaffle and passed it to the flying Angelina. At that moment, Marcus flew up to Montague, snatched the bat from his hand, and aimed to hit the bludger towards Wood. But as soon as he lifted the bat, Terence grabbed his arm. "Don't forget what we promised. The Dean is still sitting there. You don't want him to come back and talk to us, do you?" Marcus froze for a moment, glared angrily at Wood, who looked somewhat confused, then threw the bat back to Montague and turned away. The game continued, with bludgers darting around the field as the beaters targeted their opponents. The quaffle was snatched back and forth, and after a few minutes of intense play, the atmosphere grew even more electric. Offensive and defensive exchanges persisted, making the goalkeepers, Wood and Blake, the hardest-working players on the field. They remained steadfast, preventing the other side from scoring, and the score stayed at 10-0. At this point, the two seekers, who had been hovering in the sky, became the focus of the audience's attention. Aaron had been diligently searching for the snitch since the game began, paying little attention to the rest of the match. He only dodged when a bludger flew towards him. Harry, on the other hand, was engrossed in the game, cheering and pumping his fists to support his team. This didn't mean that he forgot his identity as a seeker. It was simply his first time playing, and he was a little too excited. The commentator, Jordan, introduced the two seekers. The two seekers are first-year freshmen. One is the famous Harry Potter, who was recognized by Professor McGonagall. He got recruited to the house team after a flying lesson and now serves as Gryffindor's seeker. Potter! The Gryffindors cheered loudly. The other is Aaron Gaius. He has shown talent far beyond his peers at Hogwarts. He was discovered by Professor Snape. Jordan's voice, he trailed off. He had intended to recount the glorious deeds of Aaron giving the Sorting Hat a bath when he first arrived at school, but at that moment, Aaron suddenly chased after a golden glimmer. "Is that the snitch? Wow, Aaron has found the golden snitch!" Jordan shouted excitedly. Harry also reacted immediately, chasing after Aaron on his broom. The Nimbus 2000 displayed its impressive speed, gradually closing the distance between Harry and Aaron. Chapter 33. The Glorious Victory, belonging to the Snake Court. As the two seekers closed in on the snitch, Harry's new broom suddenly became particularly restless. It bucked wildly, sometimes jumping up and down, other times shaking from side to side, and even rotating 360 degrees. It looked like a wild horse trying to throw its rider off. Noticing this, Aaron frowned and stopped chasing the snitch. "What are you doing?" he called out. "I don't know. The broom's gone crazy." "It's the first time I've encountered something like this," Harry replied, his voice tinged with panic. This was no longer just about losing the game. It was a matter of life and death. "It can't be," Aaron said, his expression puzzled. This was a Nimbus 2000, a top-of-the-line broomstick. Such behavior was unheard of, especially for a professional seeker like Harry. Others in the stands also noticed the problem. They pointed and whispered as Harry struggled to control his broomstick. "What's happening to Harry's broom?" Hagrid exclaimed in astonishment. Hermione, peering through her binoculars, noticed something odd. Her gaze followed Harry, but then she caught sight of someone in the stands, muttering a spell with intense concentration. Adjusting her binoculars, she realized it was Snape, his eyes fixed unblinkingly on Harry. "It's Snape! He's chanting a spell," Hermione said in surprise. Despite her reluctance to believe that Snape, who had once saved her life, would do such a thing, the evidence was undeniable. "He's chanting a spell?" Ron echoed, looking towards Snape. "What do we do?" "Leave it to me." Hermione handed the binoculars to Ron and dashed out of the auditorium, heading towards Snape's stand. Meanwhile, Harry's broom shook even more violently. It began to turn vertically, and after 2 flips, Harry was nearly thrown off. He clung to the broom handle with one hand, dangling precariously in midair. It was clear to everyone that he couldn't hold on much longer. The Nimbus 2000 continued to sway, and Harry grabbed it with his other hand, not daring to let go. The Seeker's predicament affected Gryffindor's morale, and Slytherin seized the opportunity, scoring 2 quaffles in quick succession. The score shifted to 10-20, with Slytherin overtaking Gryffindor. "Ah! The situation is more serious than I thought," Aaron muttered as he flew to Harry's side. Reluctantly, he extended his right hand to Harry. "If you don't want to fall, grab my hand. This isn't a broomstick problem. Someone is trying to harm you." Harry hesitated for a moment, but then grabbed Aaron's hand. Aaron pulled him onto his broom, and the Nimbus 2000, as if losing its target, gradually stabilized, hovering in midair. Both Gryffindor and Slytherin spectators watched in astonishment. Most admired Aaron for not taking advantage of Harry's plight, while a few were angry, thinking he had given up a chance for a decisive victory. Aaron didn't care what they thought. After pulling Harry onto his broom, he quickly flew around the field, not daring to delay for a moment. "Thank you," Harry said, embarrassed but grateful. He realized Aaron was right. Someone had been trying to harm him. "You could have won," Harry said, still confused. Aaron had spotted the snitch before him, and without the broom's malfunction, he would have easily caught it. There was still a great possibility that Aaron could snatch the snitch before him. "I have my own principles. I can lose openly, but I can't win without knowing it," Aaron said calmly. "The condition for me to join the academy team is that when I participate in the competition, the whole team will not allow any fouls. But if I had taken the opportunity just now to catch the snitch, then I would have been the one who fouled." On the other side, Hermione had already pushed through the crowd and ran quickly to the platform where Snape was. She was just about to pull out her wand to stop Snape from casting a spell when she was surprised to find that Harry had run onto Aaron's broom. "How could this be?" Hermione murmured, softly. With her clever mind, she quickly figured out what had happened. Looking at Aaron flying in the sky, the corners of her mouth couldn't help but rise slightly. "What are you doing here?" Snape asked, his face dark and foreboding as he noticed Hermione Granger behind him. "Ah!" Hermione was startled but quickly regained her composure, forcing herself to stay calm. "I think I can see it more clearly from here." "Really? Is it necessary to draw your wand? Miss Granger, do you think Gryffindor has too many points and you want me to deduct more?" "No." Hermione put away her wand in a panic and stammered. Yes. "I asked her to come," Professor Flitwick interjected hastily, trying to smooth things over. Miss Granger has a few spells she can't figure out, and I asked her to come to me after the Quidditch match. Maybe she just couldn't wait. You know Hermione has always been a little wizard hungry for knowledge." Hermione froze for a moment, then nodded repeatedly. Snape took a deep look at Hermione, then turned his gaze to Flitwick, snorted softly, and turned his head away. Professor Flitwick breathed a sigh of relief and pulled Hermione beside him, as far away from Snape as possible. "What do you want me to say about you? A lot of Gryffindors don't like Professor Snape, but there aren't any Gryffindors who want to play tricks with a wand like you. Hermione, you are still a first-year student, and you have 7 years until graduation. Are you sure you want to offend a potions teacher who will teach you for 7 years? Aye. Stop talking, kid. Promise me that you won't do such impulsive things again, okay?" Hermione felt a little aggrieved and wanted to tell Professor Flitwick about seeing Snape chanting a spell just now, but without evidence, she could only nod helplessly. "All right, let's watch the game. Aaron is better than I thought. His excellence is not just in talent, but in character. Of course, his talent is also very good," Flitwick laughed. Hermione came back to her senses and turned her attention to the arena. Aaron flew around the field, thinking that the person who had tried to harm Harry earlier would not dare to cast another spell under the watchful eyes of so many people. He simply sent Harry back to his Nimbus 2000. "The game continues, and I will not show mercy," Aaron said. Harry nodded, clutching the broom tightly with both hands. He quickly adjusted his focus, searching for the golden glimmer of the snitch. This time he was very focused, but it was still Aaron who spotted the snitch first and chased after it. Harry followed, and soon collided with Aaron. In the process of chasing the snitch, the two kept bumping into each other with their arms, trying to throw each other off balance, but neither could gain the upper hand. The golden snitch began to rush towards the lawn on the ground, and the two also began to dive down. The speed of the Nimbus 2000 was a little faster, but Harry didn't dare to move forward at full speed as they neared the ground, so he kept pace with Aaron. Finally, when he could clearly see the grass on the ground, Harry didn't dare to dive any further. He lifted his broom abruptly and came to a sudden stop. But Aaron was still flying downwards. Just as he was about to hit the ground, Aaron Gaius stretched out his right hand and quickly slid his fingers across the grass, leaving 3 shallow ravines on the lawn. With a swift motion, he raised his hand, scooped up a bit of dirt, and caught the golden snitch that was flying above the lawn. Aaron Gaius caught the snitch and scored 150 points. "The game is over," Lee Jordan announced. "Gryffindor and Slytherin, 10 to 170. Professor Hooch blew her whistle and declared loudly, "Slytherin wins." Slytherin's cheers instantly filled the entire stadium, and the professors in the stands applauded the thrilling game. However, Professor McGonagall appeared more subdued than the others. She had hoped that with Harry Potter, a talented seeker, Gryffindor would reclaim their pride and overcome their previous setbacks, but she hadn't anticipated that Slytherin would have Aaron Gaius, a formidable player in his own right. Despite her disappointment, she couldn't find any fault in the match. In the past, she could argue that the opponents were invincible and often fouled, but this time there was no such consolation. Chapter 34. On the court, Aaron held the golden snitch, basking in the joy of victory with the rest of the Slytherin team. Harry lowered his head, feeling a pang of guilt, unable to meet Wood's eyes, who had placed high hopes on him. "Sorry, if I could have just tried harder," Harry began. "There's no need to apologize. You did your best. At least this time, we were convinced," Wood comforted him. Although he felt regretful as a qualified captain, he knew how to alleviate the pressure on his players. "That's right," one of the Weasley twins chimed in. "This match was unusual." "Very unusual," the other twin emphasized. "Slytherin didn't resort to any illegal tactics. It was a fair game." "I know," Harry said, raising his hand. "It seems to be the condition for Aaron to join the team. Slytherin wasn't allowed to break the rules during the game." Wood raised his eyebrows. "It seems he really loves Quidditch. It's amazing that he can keep 6 rebellious players in check. But then again, Slytherin respects strength. If Aaron were mediocre, Marcus would never have agreed to those terms." "It's more than that," Angelina interjected. I don't know if you noticed, but I certainly did. Noticed what? Harry asked. Aaron's finger. Angelina pointed towards Aaron, who was not far away. His finger is still bleeding. Several team members looked over simultaneously and saw that Aaron's right hand, which he held behind his back, was dripping blood. They all gasped in unison. Wood sighed and forced a smile. Harry, to be honest, losing to him is nothing to be ashamed of. I haven't seen an 11-year-old do that before. It must have hurt. Harry nodded silently. The team didn't blame him, and he felt a bit better. After everyone left, Draco reluctantly returned the cat in his arms to Aaron. Aaron, you were amazing out there. This is the most beautiful win Slytherin has ever had. A full 160 points against Gryffindor. Yes, but I won't play like that again in the future. What? Why not? Because there's a price to pay for showing off, Aaron replied with a wry smile, opening his right hand, which was stained with blood. Are you hurt? Draco's eyes widened. Abe, the cat, showed concern for its owner, biting off a piece of the scarf around its neck and trying to wrap Aaron's fingers. Then, it took out a candy from its pocket and handed it to Aaron with its soft paws. This display left Draco stunned. As the heir of the Malfoy family, he had seen many pets, but none as sensible, loyal, and intelligent as Abe. Sometimes I really suspect it's not just a cat, Draco said in astonishment. Then, looking at Aaron's wound, he added, Let's go to the infirmary. It doesn't matter. It's just a scratch, Aaron reassured, rubbing Abe's head. Although there's some blood, it didn't hurt the bone. A simple bandage will do. With the potion I have, it will be back to normal after 2 days of rest. On the other side, Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Hagrid walked together. Hermione explained to Harry and Hagrid about Snape's spells on the field, while Ron corroborated her story. Nonsense. Why would Snape curse Harry's broom? Hagrid expressed disbelief. Would a professor harm his students on the field? Obviously not. Who knows, but my broom was out of control. Aaron also said someone was trying to kill me, and now it seems that person is very likely Snape. He's been hostile to me since the first day of school. He must have a dark secret. Ha ha! Hagrid laughed loudly. Harry, everyone has their own dark secrets, and so do I. I also keep a lot of pets at school. Pets? Ron paused. I suddenly remembered the 3-headed dog we saw in the room on the right corridor on the 4th floor of the school. Have you seen Fluffy? It has a name? Hermione was a little surprised. You really raised that monster? I bought it from an Irishman in a tavern last year and lent it to Dumbledore to keep it safe, Hagrid said. Watching what? Harry asked immediately. I can't tell, Hagrid's voice suddenly dropped. He stared at the 3 of them with wide eyes and said sternly, Don't ask any more questions. This is top secret. In short, this matter has nothing to do with you. It's very dangerous. The things that the dog guarded are known only to Professor Dumbledore and Nicholas Flamel. Nicholas Flamel? Harry's eyes widened, as if he had discovered a new continent. Hagrid opened his mouth, then walked towards his hut with some shame, murmuring incessantly, I shouldn't have said it. I really shouldn't have said it. I have a hunch. Harry turned around and looked at Hermione and Ron. Snape's purpose may be related to what the dog is guarding. Harry, Snape did cast a spell on your broom, but that only proves that he wanted to kill you. It may not have anything to do with what the dog is guarding, Hermione said. It's too far-fetched. No, it's related. Harry suddenly thought of something. Hagrid and I took out the thing the dog was guarding from Gringotts. Snape is a professor at the school. He must know about it. Maybe he thought I knew what was in that bag, and that's why he was hostile to me. That's why he hurt me on the field. Apart from this, I can't think of any other reason. After all, Snape and I have never had any grievances, and he has no other reason to harm me. Ron and Hermione looked at each other in blank dismay. They had to admit that Harry's reasoning was well-founded, and they reluctantly believed it. Do any of you know this Nicholas Flamel? Harry asked. I don't know, said Hermione, but we can look it up in the library sometime. The next day, the stadium was full of voices. Aaron had dropped out of the academy team after the first game, and Terence had returned as Seeker. But even so, Slytherin's strength should not be underestimated. Because of Aaron's victory over Harry Potter, Snape was in a particularly good mood and allowed him to sit on the teacher's platform to watch the game. After all, it was the dean's kindness, and he couldn't refuse it. It was very necessary to build a good relationship with the Dean and Master of Potions at Hogwarts. You look a little unhappy, Snape observed lightly. What do you think, Professor? Aaron hugged Abby and yawned. Not everyone likes to watch the game, especially when they are taking a nap. Mr. Gaius, there may be something wrong with your mind. You can skip some games, but this game is Slytherin versus Ravenclaw. As a member of Slytherin and the star who defeated Harry Potter yesterday, it is really unreasonable not to come and cheer. Don't say Slytherin will lose if I don't come. I still miss my dorm bed more. What's more, I promised you that I would do it, and I did. We owe nothing to each other now. It's already a great deal of face for you that I gave up my precious nap time to come and watch a game with you, Aaron said, meeting Snape's cold squint. Gollum. Aaron's Adam's apple twitched, but he stared back. In any case, he couldn't lose his momentum. He knew very well that Snape would never deduct Slytherin's points just because he was unhappy. Gradually, their eyes grew sore until Mrs. Hooch blew her whistle, announcing that Slytherin had won. They both blinked and then turned their heads in unison. As they were leaving, Hermione ran over and stopped Aaron. Miss Granger, don't tell me you to see Professor Flitwick for advice on spells today, Snape said, looking at Hermione indifferently. He felt that something was wrong yesterday. Flitwick's current behavior was clumsy and blunt, completely fooling him, who had been acting for more than 10 years. But at that time, it was about Harry Potter's safety, and he didn't have time to study it carefully. This time, however, Hermione Granger had come to him directly. If the head of Slytherin House is just looking for an excuse to deduct a few more points from Gryffindor, then he's not worth much. Ahem, Miss Granger, because— Hermione, you came on time, Aaron interjected suddenly, catching Snape off guard and cutting him off mid-sentence. Snape stared blankly at his student, clearly expecting an explanation. Professor, Hermione and I have something to discuss, so I asked her to come over. You've always been understanding, so I hope you won't mind, Aaron explained, trying to sound as respectful as possible. The corner of Snape's mouth twitched involuntarily. He gritted his teeth and, with a forced display of his usual stern demeanor, said, "No." After uttering those two words, Snape walked towards the bottom of the platform. As he passed Hermione, he paused and lowered his voice. Miss Granger, I won't say I hope there will be no next time, because there are too many people in Gryffindor who never change their ways. What I'm trying to say is, you better hope you're covered next time. Chapter 35. Snape is a good guy, but not obvious. Don't be silly, Professor Snape has already left, Aaron said, looking at the stunned Hermione with a hint of amusement. What can I do for you? Oh, right, I almost forgot, Hermione suddenly remembered. Come with me first. This is the Quidditch pitch, not a place to talk. Mysterious, Aaron shrugged, picking up Abe, who was lying on the seat, and followed her. The two began to walk along the campus, gradually reaching a more secluded area. It's almost done. Then we will go to the bathroom. Even if you are going on a date, find a decent place. Hermione blushed. Who is going on a date with you? Isn't it a date? Then I'm even more disappointed. But that's okay. We're only 11 years old, so we just need to be good friends. When Hermione heard the first half of the sentence, she couldn't help but feel a little joy in her heart. But when she heard the second half, the slight joy was wiped out, and her face became a little more bitter. Okay, I was joking. If my mother knew that I made girls cry, she would probably come back from Loch Ness and beat me up. Pfft. Hermione was amused and let go of her unpleasantness. Can you tell me what you want from me? Aaron asked curiously. Hermione collected herself, looked around solemnly, and after confirming that there were no people or ghosts, she said, Aaron, you must listen to me, and you must stay away from Snape in the future. He is not a good person. Huh? Aaron was a little dazed, never expecting that Hermione called him here just to remind him of this. Although the Gryffindor students don't like Snape's stern demeanor, it doesn't mean he should be defined as a bad guy. Impossible. I can still tell the difference between a good person and a bad person. Although Professor Snape is usually a little strict, he definitely isn't a bad person. It's true, I'm not lying to you, Hermione explained anxiously. Harry almost fell off his broomstick during the Quidditch match yesterday, you know that. So, What does that have to do with Snape being a bad guy? You don't suspect it's him, do you? It was him who jinxed Harry. I saw it with my own eyes. He was sitting on the platform, his eyes fixed on Harry's broom without blinking, and he was reciting spells very fast. That doesn't prove it's him. Why? This is already conclusive evidence. Don't you believe me? Hermione felt wronged. Originally, only she, Harry, Ron, and Hagrid knew about Snape's chanting. She had made a lot of determination and even risked being noticed by Snape to tell Aaron. Seeing Hermione's red eyes, Aaron panicked and hurriedly said, "It's not that I don't believe you, but are you sure Snape is trying to harm Harry? Snape is not weak, to say the least. He is also a magister. A magister concentrating on reciting spells on the broomstick. Why do you think Harry could hold on for so long without falling off? By skill? Don't make jokes. I admit that he has good talent, but in the end, he is just a novice." "What do you mean?" Hermione frowned, as if she had discovered the point but couldn't grasp it. "Stupid. It's really a waste of reading so many books." Aaron shook his head speechlessly. "Since you have read the relevant content, you should know that this evil curse can also be counteracted by the opposite spell. The method is similar. Keep your eyes on the target of the spell and concentrate on it. That means there were at least 2 people chanting spells at that time, one chanting the evil spell and the other chanting the counterspell. If Snape had recited the counterspell, he wouldn't be harming Harry, but saving him. You don't know the specific situation, so it's too arbitrary to blame Professor Snape like this. Or did you hear Snape chanting a jinx? But, at that time, I only saw Snape chanting spells, and the other people's mouths didn't move so fast." Boom! Aaron flicked Hermione's head lightly. "Whoever told you that you must say a curse with your mouth? Some spells can be cast non-verbally. High-level wizards only need to look at the object of the curse, and then use some props and secret methods to achieve the same effect under normal circumstances. To give a simple example, before you came to Hogwarts, you should have released magic without using any spells." Hermione froze for a moment, realizing how deep and intricate the wizarding world truly was. But this can only reduce half of Snape's suspicion. The other half might be that he is casting a curse, Hermione said stubbornly. "Impossible, absolutely impossible," Aaron said emphatically. "At Hogwarts, anyone, whether it's you, me, or even Dumbledore, could harm Harry Potter, but Snape would never do that. He's—" "But what?" Hermione looked at Aaron, her curiosity almost palpable. "It's nothing. No, you must know." "I really don't know," Aaron said very seriously. He genuinely didn't know that Snape was involved. "Really?" Hermione suddenly showed a meaningful smile. "Aaron, if I go to Professor Snape now and say that you told me everything, what do you think he will think?" Aaron was taken aback for a moment, then clapped his hands. "Oh, good idea. Very smart. If I didn't know better, you might have succeeded." The smile on Hermione's face froze instantly. Snape Severus was the head of Slytherin House. Aaron, being Slytherin and Snape's favorite student, could easily see him. But as a Gryffindor, Hermione would have a hard time even getting through the door. Now the two were standing on the same starting line, but the finish line was obviously much closer to Aaron. Her little trick might be broken before it was even implemented. "Understood?" Aaron smiled triumphantly. "I can tell you responsibly that Snape would never harm Harry Potter. Please, Hermione, get out of the way now. I need to go back and catch up on sleep." "No, you can't go." Hermione grabbed Aaron's arm. "I must know why. If you don't tell me, I'll cry." Aaron sighed helplessly and lifted Abe in front of him. "Do you know what species this is?" "A cat. What's the matter?" Aaron nodded. "Then you must have heard of Curiosity Killed the Cat." As soon as he finished speaking, Abe started turning over in Aaron's arms. It was a dragon with noble blood, and such a lowly curse was an insult to it. "Snap!" Aaron patted it on the back. "Don't worry, I'll add a chicken leg to your dinner." In front of delicious food, Abe stabilized instantly. It wasn't afraid of curses. It was a holy dragon, and the last thing it feared was a curse, especially such an insignificant one. Hermione pondered for a moment. "But I still want to know." "I really can't tell you. This matter is probably related to Professor Snape's self-esteem, and the more he knows, the greater the risk he takes." "I'm not afraid of risks. What Gryffindor lacks most is the spirit of adventure. But I'm afraid, Aaron said with a wry smile. If you accidentally make a mistake, I will be the one who suffers. Okay, Hermione said regretfully. Since you won't tell me, then I can only look it up myself. As soon as Aaron breathed a sigh of relief, he was shocked by the second half of her words and immediately said, You stand there for me. Hermione stood up straight, then smiled triumphantly and stuck out her tongue playfully. I'm really scared of you. I can tell you, but you must promise me you won't tell anyone, especially Harry Potter. I promise. Hermione raised her right hand and solemnly said, I swear I won't tell even if I'm killed. Hey! Swearing is the least binding thing in the wizarding world, but I'm still willing to trust you this time, as long as you don't take my trust lightly, Aaron said, his face becoming more serious. Do you remember what Professor Snape asked Harry in the first potions class? Yes, I remember. What do you get when you add daffodil root powder to a wormwood infusion? Exactly. Have you ever wondered why he asked that question? Daffodil and wormwood, in the language of flowers, the meaning of these two plants can... The phrase could be understood as, my regrets follow you to your grave, encompassing meanings of absence and bitter sadness. Snape apologized in this way when he and Harry met for the first time. He felt extremely guilty towards Harry, and it was absolutely impossible for him to harm him. You mean, I'll buy it? Hermione's mouth dropped open in shock. The impact of this revelation was too great for her to accept immediately. Wait, that's not right. Why is Professor Snape always making things difficult for Harry? Who knows? It may be out of anger. After all, Harry's grades are completely unworthy of his fame and talent. If he were good enough, Snape would have no reason to embarrass him, would he? Hermione nodded blankly. It seems to be true. Since Harry started hanging out with Ron, he hasn't paid much attention to his studies. Both of them copy my homework. The corner of Aaron's mouth twitched. He hadn't expected these two to be diligent students at the age of 11. But it didn't matter to him. Whether they copied homework or handed in blank papers, it had nothing to do with him. Chapter 36. After the start of the Quidditch season, Hogwarts seemed to be ignited with passion. Both students and teachers were particularly excited. This enthusiasm did not subside until more than a week after the end of the season. The students attended classes as usual and completed the homework assigned by their teachers. Everything seemed to return to the way it was when the school year began. However, Harry, Ron, and Hermione were often seen in the library these days. The combination of a top student and two less academically inclined students roamed the sea of books whenever they had time. But it wasn't for learning. They were searching for information about Nicholas Flamel. Harry and Ron were certain that Snape's goal was something guarded by the three-headed dog, Fluffy, so it was crucial to figure out what Fluffy was protecting. Expecting Dumbledore to tell them was unrealistic and might alert Snape, so they focused on Nicholas Flamel, hoping to find some clues from the mage's information. Hermione knew that it wasn't Snape who tried to kill Harry, but someone else. She had promised Aaron to keep it a secret and couldn't reveal the truth. She followed Harry and Ron in their search for Nicholas Flamel's information because she guessed that the person who tried to kill Harry was also after what Fluffy guarded. The library was vast, with thousands of books, densely packed bookshelves, and hundreds of narrow passages. Finding a name in these books was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Naturally, it was impossible for them to search every book, so they focused on books that recorded great wizards in modern times, assuming that Nicholas Flamel, being associated with Dumbledore, was at least a great mage. Despite searching for more than 10 days, they couldn't find Nicholas Flamel's name. It might have been because they didn't work hard enough. After all, they were only searching in their spare time, and more than 10 days of spare time was only enough to roughly read less than 100 books, which was a drop in the bucket compared to the entire library. That night, Aaron was lying on his bed in the lounge, hugging the dragon-shaped pillow that was already asleep. He silently opened his personal panel. Magic Energy 950, Intermediate Magician, your magical journey has just started. Talent, rare in 100 years, can be improved. Magic power increases by 2 points every day. Items, Moondrop, can remove any negative spells. Resurrection Potion, can revive any creature that died within an hour. Magic points, 888, Hogwarts sign-in, increase 10 points a day. Soon, if I work hard for half a month, I'll be able to advance to a senior magician, Aaron thought excitedly. He nodded with satisfaction when he saw the number of magic points. Not for anything else, just for this auspicious number. What a good omen. System, open the magic mall. Okay, it has been opened for the host. After the words fell, the mall interface appeared in front of Aaron's eyes. Magic category transfiguration, 1,000 magic points, including animagus. At Bubblehead Charm, 100 magic points allows breathing underwater. Levitation Charm, 10 magic points. At Patronus Charm, 200 magic points. Apparition, 800 magic points. Materials, at Phoenix Feather, 30 magic points. At Dragon Blood, 20 magic points. At Mandrake, 5 magic points. At Bezoar, 1 magic point. At Unicorn Horn, 3 magic points. Item category, Magic Carpet, 200 magic points, 3 meters long and 2 meters wide. At Magic Crystal, 100 magic points. Contains powerful magic, can supply energy to the magic circle. Flue Powder, 500 magic points. At Invisibility Potion, 100 magic points. Hides the drinker for 3 hours. At Collector's Edition Quaffle, 30 magic points, a priceless treasure for Quidditch enthusiasts. Ha! Aaron took a long breath, feeling a mix of excitement and helplessness. He looked at the magic carpet, considering his options. Aaron placed his order decisively and received the items in his system space. After making his purchase, he was left with only 688 magic points. The remaining products made him truly understand the dilemma of wanting both the fish and the bear's paw. He ignored the basic materials, as they were readily available in the market, and he wouldn't need them immediately. However, the remaining items and magic were all things he desired, but with his current financial resources, he could only choose a small portion. After some contemplation, Aaron focused on the Felix elixir. Gritting his teeth, he decided to buy it. He hadn't forgotten that a significant battle awaited him this semester, and to face a dying Dark Lord, he needed absolute strength. Unfortunately, he didn't possess that strength yet, so he had to rely on luck. With good fortune, even if he charged headfirst, bullets and spells might miss him. Of course, the enhancement of luck was limited, but sometimes a bit of good luck was all that was needed. Looking at the small bottle of Felix elixir in his hand, Aaron frowned. Is this 200 milliliters? The host needs to learn to be content. A small sip will bring good luck for the next 12 hours. This small bottle is enough for the host to use several times, the system responded. Aaron didn't reply, silently accepting the statement. However, he knew that relying solely on luck was akin to courting death. After all, his opponent was the Dark Lord. Even as a remnant soul, the Dark Lord was formidable. The first spell might be avoided by luck, but not the second one. With this in mind, Aaron made a silent decision. If worst came to worst, he would take a big risk when the time came. For the next period, owls delivered packages to Aaron daily. In addition to Abe's dragon package, Jinns also sent some books and 2 mysterious small boxes. What's this? Draco asked curiously one morning, picking up a box from Aaron's package. The one in your hand should be a magic ring from the Middle Ages, a 1,000-year-old antique, Aaron replied. Wow, Draco exclaimed. But what are you doing with this thing? I can't tell you that. I have my uses, Aaron said, pretending to be mysterious. Shouldn't you be studying? Don't forget the bet you made with Hermione. I won't forget, Draco said, blushing slightly. He then showed a bit of frustration. But I don't have much confidence now. You don't know. I thought I had worked hard enough. My performance during this period even exceeded my father's expectations. He wrote a letter praising me a few days ago. To be honest, my father has never praised me so seriously before. That's great. Knowing a son is like knowing a father. This proves that your hard work hasn't been in vain, Aaron said meaningfully. Draco's talent was indeed impressive, placing him among the top students in the first grade. That's right, Draco said, scratching his blonde hair embarrassedly. But I went to the library before, and Granger almost scared me. There were so many thick books on her desk. He gestured with his hand, indicating a height of about 2 feet. Aaron's eyes twitched. He knew Hermione liked to study, but her dedication was surprising. Ahem. People who are better than you are still working hard, so why don't you work hard too? But now I seem to have seen the end. No, it's not as if... I'm not the kind of person who can't recognize reality clearly. I probably won't win this time. Is that self-defeating? Aaron laughed. Draco, do you know the difference between a fiasco and a near defeat? Draco froze for a moment, then pondered. I don't think there is any difference. They are both failures. That's right, Aaron nodded in agreement. He then stood up and patted Draco on the shoulder. But you need to seriously consider this issue right now. What do you mean? Draco asked, furrowing his brow. Aaron patted his forehead and explained, You and Hermione are competing for grades. The full score is 100 points. She can get 100 points on the test. It's not impossible for you to work harder and achieve the same, right? Well, I do have a little bit of confidence in getting a perfect score, but only a little bit, Draco admitted. Then it's settled. If you work hard, you still have a chance to tie, but if you lose, it's better to lose with 99 points than to be left far behind with a much lower score. Which one would you choose? Aaron asked. Of course, I'd choose 99, Draco said immediately, as if a light bulb had gone off in his head. Exactly. Even if you lose in this situation, it's an honorable loss. At least losing with 99 points isn't so bad, and no one will gossip about you. When you see Hermione Granger in the future, you can still hold your head high. You won't feel guilty, Aaron encouraged. I know what to do now, Draco said with determination. He immediately pulled up Crabbe and Goyle. Get up, you two. We're going to the library to study. Chapter 37. How old is Nicholas Flamel? In mid-December, heavy snow fell from the sky, blanketing Hogwarts Castle in a pristine layer of white. The Black Lake was covered with a solid sheet of ice. Hagrid dragged a fir tree several meters high into the campus, leaving a long trail in the deep snow. Inside the castle, laughter echoed through the halls. Most students were packing their luggage, preparing to go home for Christmas. Even the mischievous ghosts paused to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. 12 medium-sized Christmas trees lined both sides of the Great Hall. Professor Flitwick was busy decorating the largest tree at the front, with Aaron assisting him from below. Candles, confetti, lights, and golden star ornaments were placed on the tree using a levitation charm. With the final star placed on top, the Christmas tree looked exceptionally beautiful. It's done, Professor. Merry Christmas, Aaron said, wiping the sweat from his brow. Decorating a Christmas tree was not a difficult task for him, but managing almost half of the trees in the Great Hall was quite a workload. Although the levitation charm was simple, the sheer volume of decorations required a significant amount of magic. Aaron had sealed half of his mana with a magic ring to avoid drawing too much attention, making the task even more challenging. Merry Christmas, Mr. Gaius, Professor Flitwick said with a smile. Slytherin is 10 points ahead, I promise you, but your talent is truly remarkable. Even though you're only in the first year, your magical power is almost on par with a fourth-year student. Thank you for the compliment, Aaron replied with a smile. Every point counted towards his system tasks. Professor, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. I've been working hard all morning, and I'm quite tired. Go ahead, boy, Professor Flitwick said. Aaron picked up his book and found a seat in the Great Hall. He began flipping through a tome on magical creatures. Nearby, Harry and Ron were playing wizard chess. Harry, a novice, pondered each move carefully, while Ron, more experienced, played with great enthusiasm. Hermione approached, frowning at the destroyed chess pieces. This is too barbaric, she remarked. This is wizard's chess, Ron chuckled, putting away the pieces. Have you packed your luggage? Not yet, Hermione replied. Plans changed. My parents decided to go to Romania to see my brother Charlie, who's studying dragons there. Aaron noticed that Abe's ears perked up at the mention of dragons, clearly intrigued. Great. You can help Harry now. He was planning to go to the library to find information about Nicholas Flamel, Hermione said. We've searched for it 100 times, Ron complained. Nicholas Flamel? Aaron raised an eyebrow. I think I've heard that name somewhere. Aaron, have you heard of him? Harry asked, overjoyed. They had searched the library for so long without success and didn't expect the answer to be so close. I've heard of him, but why are you looking for that old man? His temper is quite unpredictable. One moment he's warm and friendly, the next he's cold and distant, Aaron said. Harry hesitated, dodging Aaron's gaze. We're not looking for him specifically. We just want to know more about him. Really? Aaron smiled playfully. I don't believe you. The three of you are first-year students. You shouldn't have any reason to know about him, let alone search for him. What's your real purpose? Harry hesitated, unsure whether to reveal their suspicions. Harry, Ron interjected, urging him to stay silent. Aaron shook his head slightly. At present, only the three of them knew about this matter, but if Aaron, who had a close relationship with Snape, was involved, the risk would greatly increase. Seeing the scene had reached a stalemate, Hermione interjected, Tell him, can you still trust Aaron's character? It's not that I don't trust him, Harry said. I just don't want to involve him. You know, his relationship with that person. Hermione rolled her eyes, knowing that Harry and Ron's suspicion of Snape, it was absolutely impossible for them to trust Aaron completely. Aaron, Hermione said weakly and coquettishly, can you tell us about Nicholas Flamel? It's very important to us. Okay, but I don't know much. The last time I saw him was when I was 4 years old, and my grandpa took me to France. France? Is there nothing else? Harry asked, astonished. For example, what does he do? He's an alchemist, but not an ordinary one. My grandfather has to show him great respect, and he brought a batch of precious magical materials when he visited. The group exchanged glances. It seemed they needed to check the book on alchemists. Anything else? Harry continued. Also, that guy is very old. You don't need to say that. Ron smiled and shook his head. He's a magician who can get involved with Dumbledore. He probably has a white beard. Not necessarily. Dumbledore is a well-known white mage, and his social circle is wider than you think. It includes the Minister of Magic, some pure-blood families, the Hogwarts Board of Directors, and the Ministry of Magic of various countries. Even some races that live in the dark, like werewolves, giants, vampires, and... Stop it, Ron patted his chest. I was wrong, Aaron. I shouldn't have interrupted. Go on. Cut! Aaron curled his lips in disdain and explained, The age I mentioned may be older than you think. Even Dumbledore can only be regarded as a junior in front of him. Impossible, Hermione's mouth twitched. Dumbledore should be over 100 years old this year. Hermione, wizards are different from muggles. They have a longer lifespan. What's more, there are many ways for wizards to extend their lifespan. There are all kinds of potions, elixirs. As for the unconventional ones, you can go to Nocturne Alley and ask any wizard there. They all know methods related to life extension, but they are usually full of bloody violence and may not be useful. Grunt, Hermione swallowed. Forget about it. How old is Nicholas Flamel? I don't know. You don't know. Ron couldn't control his emotions. Then why did you say so much just now? Calm down, calm down. I was only 4 years old at that time, barely better than a 3-year-old child. How could I remember so much? What's more, as a 4-year-old, do you think it is appropriate to ask the age of a great magician? Even if it was appropriate, would Nicholas Flamel answer me? But there is one thing I remember clearly. When Nicholas Flamel opened the door for me and my grandfather, he said, The Gaius kid who was here last time is your great-grandfather. Also, to remind you, my great-grandfather was a little older than me when he met him. He was a 5-year-old child taken by my great-great-grandfather, which means he knew at least my great-great-grandfather. The three of them were speechless. According to this, Nicholas Flamel should be at least over 200 years old, Hermione said, then suddenly thought of something and patted her forehead. I said, Why can't I find his name in the classics of famous modern wizards? The book that records his information should be pushed back at least 200 years. It may be more than that, Aaron said lightly. His status in the hearts of some older magicians is not comparable to that of Dumbledore. That's all I know. The rest is up to you to find out on your own. Thank you, Aaron, Hermione smiled. At least modern wizards can be ruled out. If you can't find them, you'll have to go to the restricted section, Harry said, his voice tinged with frustration. The restricted section? You need a professor's approval to study there, but with all due respect, you don't have the qualifications yet, Aaron replied, his tone firm but not unkind. Then can you help us? Every professor likes you very much, if you borrow it. Harry began, his excitement evident. However, Aaron interrupted him before he could finish. Sorry, I can't help you with this, and I suggest you don't pursue it. It's quite dangerous for first-year students to come into contact with banned books, especially since your purpose isn't academic, Aaron advised, his expression serious. Harry scratched his head, feeling embarrassed. He realized he had overstepped and was too ashamed to ask Aaron for further assistance. Chapter 38. By the way, I don't seem to have seen you pack your luggage, Hermione remarked, looking at Aaron with some surprise. Aren't you going home for Christmas? Harry and Ron were equally stunned by her question. The Christmas holiday was quite long, and nearly 90% of the students usually went home. Only a few professors and students with special circumstances chose to stay at school. Harry preferred to stay at Hogwarts because his uncle's house was too oppressive, and he found more happiness at school. Ron's parents were visiting his brother in Romania, leaving no one at home, so he decided to stay at school as well. In such a case, it was more convenient to remain at Hogwarts, where food and housing were taken care of. However, they never expected Aaron to choose to stay at school too, as it seemed unnecessary for him. Are you surprised? Aaron asked calmly. The three nodded in unison. I matured relatively early, Aaron explained. The Gaius family generally adopts a free-range approach for their heirs, believing it better cultivates a sense of independence. After I turned 8, my parents went traveling and usually didn't come back unless they were tired of playing or something important happened at home. I see my parents for less than a month each year, and my uncle usually takes care of my daily life. But it's Christmas. Hermione felt a bit sorry for Aaron. Don't get me wrong, Aaron shrugged. They do come back for Christmas, but I find it more interesting to stay at school, so I chose to stay. This was only part of the reason. More importantly, the magic points obtained by signing in at Hogwarts were 10 times those at home. Before gaining enough power, enjoying life and family reunions were secondary concerns. That's right, Harry chuckled. Otherwise, my family treats their only son very well. The day before Christmas, after lunch, Aaron took Abe out of the Great Hall for a walk around the castle. The ice and snow outside had completely captured their interest, especially Abe's, who had rarely seen snow before. A few days ago, the students were busy packing their luggage, and there were still many people around, which restrained Abe's natural exuberance. But today was different. Most students had gone home, reducing the number of people at school by more than half, and the space felt much larger. Abe rushed into the snowdrifts, rolling around with abandon. Its white body and clothes blended seamlessly into the snow, making it nearly invisible unless you looked closely. If Aaron hadn't warned it not to show its wings, it would probably have flown into the sky to watch the falling snow. When they reached the playground and saw no one around, Aaron took out an expensive magic carpet from his system space and jumped on it with Abe. The dark blue magic carpet was not as difficult to control as a broomstick. It completely obeyed Aaron's commands and moved as he wished. The carpet was spacious enough to accommodate 3 or 5 people, but with just the 2 of them, they could even lie down and roll around, though they might fall off. Sitting on the magic carpet, admiring the snow-covered Hogwarts, each with a lollipop in their mouths, they felt extremely comfortable. However, their flying might have been a bit too conspicuous. Professor McGonagall, who was in her office, happened to see them and her eyes lit up. Aaron, Mr. Gaius, can you come here? Professor McGonagall called out with a smile from the window, like a witch enticing an 11-year-old boy into mischief. Aaron froze for a moment, then controlled the magic carpet to fly over. Professor McGonagall, what's the matter? Well, Aaron, your flying carpet is... Professor McGonagall glanced at the magic carpet from time to time, feeling a bit embarrassed. As a professor at Hogwarts, she was intrigued by the students' belongings, but felt awkward admitting it. She had a particular fondness for magical props, like the magic carpet. A Quidditch fanatic in her youth, she loved the thrill of speed on a broomstick. However, age had caught up with her, making broomstick rides impractical. The magic carpet, elegant, comfortable, safe, and smooth flying, seemed like the perfect alternative. I found it in the warehouse at home before coming to school, Aaron explained solemnly, then frowned. Professor, the school doesn't seem to have a rule against using magic carpets. That's true. It's not in the school regulations, Professor McGonagall admitted. But we still need to be mindful of the impact, understand? Understood. I only use it during the Christmas holidays and don't usually take it out at school. That's good, Professor McGonagall nodded, then looked at the magic carpet with keen interest. Mr. Gaius, I wonder if I could experience this carpet of yours. Aaron was momentarily confused and then turned to look at Abe. The dragon shook its head solemnly and took a step forward, displaying an inexplicable sense of territory. The light in Professor McGonagall's eyes gradually dimmed. If it's not possible, forget it. Okay, why not? Aaron said immediately. It's my honor to have the professor try it. But it's okay. I know it well. 2 chicken legs will do the trick. Just prepare a little snack. Okay, got it, Professor McGonagall laughed excitedly. Wait for me for a moment. I'll be right back. A few minutes later, Professor McGonagall sat down on the magic carpet, looking a bit embarrassed. She had prepared a cushion for herself. Aaron, meanwhile, watched Abe, who was happily munching on snacks, and fell into deep thought. Would this dragon be lured away by a chicken leg someday? With a professor on board, Aaron felt more courageous. He controlled the magic carpet and flew around Hogwarts Castle. The smiles on Professor McGonagall's face grew wider. The magic carpet then took a low-altitude flight over the Black Lake. Normally, Aaron wouldn't dare to do this, as no one knew if magical creatures from the lake might suddenly appear. But with the lake covered in solid ice and a magister-level professor on the carpet, the safety level was high, and he felt no fear. However, when Aaron steered towards the Forbidden Forest, Professor McGonagall was alarmed and quickly said, "Wait, Mr. Gaius, you can't go there." "Can't I?" Aaron felt a bit regretful. He had hoped to use the professor's presence to enjoy the snowy scenery of the Forbidden Forest. If lucky, he might even spot a live unicorn. "Of course you can't. It's best not to enter this forest without a special reason. Many magical creatures live in the Forbidden Forest. Even Dumbledore can't claim to understand them completely. He can only reach agreements to restrict them. But you must be aware that sometimes agreements mean nothing. They may be severely punished, even at the cost of their lives, for attacking students. But what good is that? The harm to students is irreparable." "Understood, Professor." Aaron nodded, and then flew back in the direction they had come from. After landing, Aaron rolled up the magic carpet and carried it on his shoulders. With a professor nearby, he didn't want to reveal the existence of his system space. As for the untraceable stretching charm, well, Abe could fit a blanket that big in a... Aaron tried to tuck the magic carpet into his pet's pocket, but it was too conspicuous. Professor McGonagall eyed the carpet on Aaron's shoulder with a hint of reluctance. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but then thought better of it. She was already quite content with what she had received today. Asking for more would seem greedy, and she didn't want to risk being turned down, which would be even more embarrassing. Aaron noticed the peculiar look in Professor McGonagall's eyes. He glanced at his magic carpet and suddenly realized what she might be thinking. "Professor, you don't want this magic carpet from me, do you?" he asked. "No, I didn't mean that," Professor McGonagall replied, waving her hand dismissively, though a slight blush colored her cheeks. "Understood," Aaron said, raising his eyebrows and giving her a knowing smile. He then headed towards the Slytherin lounge. Back in his dormitory, Aaron found a large gift box and carefully placed the folded magic carpet inside. Tomorrow was Christmas, and he intended this gift for Professor McGonagall. He was sure it would make her day. Of course, he wasn't actually giving it away permanently. The magic carpet had cost him a fortune, and he wasn't sure if he could ever get another one. However, he could certainly lend it to her. From Christmas until the end of the semester, he wouldn't have much use for it anyway. It was too flashy to use regularly, but lending it to Professor McGonagall for free would be a kind gesture. As the head of Gryffindor and a master of transfiguration, she could be a valuable ally. Making a good impression on her would undoubtedly make his school life easier in the future. Aaron had gifts for others as well, though the level of thought and care varied. Sophistication and strategic generosity were always important. Chapter 39. The next morning, Aaron opened his eyes to find a dozen or so packages of various sizes piled in the corner of his bed. These were his Christmas presents for the year. He started with his parents' gift, which turned out to be exactly what he expected, a postcard of the sunrise they had seen while sailing at sea. Dear son, isn't it beautiful? We originally planned to take a picture of the starry sky for you, but we thought you would open the present in the morning, so we chose a picture of the sunrise. May you always be full of vigor. Vico. Tsk! It's like this again, Aaron muttered, shaking his head as he put the postcard away. Despite the simplicity of the gift, it was filled with affection. His parents knew he had everything he needed, so they sent a commemorative gift instead. The second package was from Gaius. Aaron picked up a piece of paper from the gift box and smiled with satisfaction. The butler had sent the income report of the small shop Aaron had opened in Diagon Alley in recent months. Additionally, there was a dragon-illustrated book detailing the species, characteristics, and habitats of all known dragons in the magical world. It was likely intended for Abe, given his noble dragon bloodline. The third package was from his uncle, containing a pure white unicorn feather, the same material used to make wands. The remaining gifts were from various relatives, each more practical than the first three. Some sent daggers, others clothes, musical instruments, distorting mirrors, and even a large bag of snacks. As soon as Aaron took out the snack bag, a white figure eagerly stuck its face into it. Aaron picked up Abe in mild disgust, then pushed the gift bag towards him, rubbing it on his snout several times. Among the gifts was another from Hermione, a toothbrush set, complete with a tooth cup, toothbrush, and toothpaste. Aaron chuckled at the practicality of the gift, even though his teeth were perfectly healthy. In the hall, students and professors gathered for the Christmas feast. The food was abundant, and everyone was in high spirits. Aaron placed Abe on the dining table and then approached Professor McGonagall with a gift box. "Professor, this is for you," he said. "For me." Professor McGonagall pointed to herself, somewhat flattered. "A Christmas gift?" "That's right," Aaron confirmed. Professor McGonagall opened the box excitedly, glanced at its contents briefly, and then closed it quickly. "Aaron, I admit that I like this gift very much. It's very special, but I really can't accept it. It's too precious." "Professor, you misunderstood. I didn't say I was giving it to you. I'm just lending it to you, but you have to return it to me before the holiday ends," Aaron explained seriously. "Really?" Professor McGonagall was visibly moved and quickly hugged the box to her chest. "Then I will accept it. This is the best gift I have received in years." "As long as you like it," Aaron smiled. "Ahem," Snape interjected coldly. "Some people seem to have forgotten that he is a student of Slytherin." "Oh, yes, this is yours, Professor Snape," Aaron said, taking out a bottle from his pocket. "This is the bodily fluid of a magical creature. It cost me a lot to get it. Of course, it may be useful, or it may not be useful at all. It depends on how you, the potion master, handle it." As Aaron explained, Abe, who was feasting on a turkey at the dining table, froze for a moment, then sniffed the air with his nose. He turned his head and glanced at the teacher's bench, his cute little face looking a bit puzzled, before continuing to eat. Snape did not hesitate. He took the bottle from Aaron, brought it to his nose, and sniffed it slightly. His face, "Aaron, what kind of magical creature is this? This material is unique. I really haven't seen it before. Or maybe I have, but forgot. Either way, it shows that this kind of magical creature is particularly rare." I'm sorry, I can't tell you that," Aaron said seriously. Everyone has their own secrets, and he definitely couldn't tell Snape that the bottle contained Abe's saliva. "Mysterious," said Snape, slipping the bottle into his pocket. "Aaron, do you have any presents for me?" Professor Flitwick asked shyly. "Of course, if not, just pretend I didn't ask." "I still have this." Aaron took out a brush and handed it over. "This," Professor Flitwick became more and more embarrassed. "If I read correctly, the material of this nib is unicorn feathers. Yes, I hope you like it. I love it so much." "Mr. Gaius, maybe I shouldn't ask this, but are there any gifts for me?" Quirrell asked hesitantly. Aaron glanced at Quirrell, who was sitting on the teacher's bench, and showed an awkward but polite smile. "Sorry, Professor, I can't use the family property while I'm in school. Professor Snape's gifts were obtained through personal channels. After getting gifts for other friends, I've almost spent all my money, so—" "It's okay, I understand," Quirrell said, covering his mouth and showing a little grievance. "I'm very sorry, Professor. I didn't think carefully about this. I'll prepare another gift for you next Christmas." Aaron comforted with an apologetic tone, though he thought to himself that Quirrell wouldn't be around after this school year. Burning a few pieces of paper for him next Christmas would be more meaningful. After stepping off the teacher's seat, Aaron returned to his seat and began to enjoy the banquet. After a while, Harry and Ron walked over, wearing the same sweaters as Percy, Fred, and George. "You are indeed good friends. You have the same taste in clothes," Aaron teased. "You look quite warm." Harry smiled awkwardly. This was the second most significant gift he had received in his life. The first was a package sent to him by a stranger that morning, containing his father's invisibility cloak. "That's right," Ron said proudly. "My mother made it herself. We all receive such gifts every Christmas, but this year there's one for Harry too. By the way, Harry also received a special gift. Do you know what it is?" "Ron," Harry glared at him. "Sorry, this gift is rather precious, and I don't want too many people to know about it." Aaron raised his eyebrows. If Harry hadn't stopped Ron in time, he would probably have known about it soon. "Aaron, Merry Christmas." Merry Christmas," Aaron replied, looking at Harry. "Speak quickly if you have anything to say. I'm in a hurry for you." "All right. First of all, thank you for the gift you gave me. I like those pictures very much." "Yes," Ron interjected immediately. "That is the most affordable gift I have ever received in my life. A gold galleon, a silver sickle, and a copper nut. But why are you sending me money?" "Because that's probably what you want, what you desperately need, and Harry isn't very short of money." "That makes sense." Ron nodded approvingly. "Cough, cough!" Harry coughed lightly, then glanced at the teacher's seat without a trace. When he found that no one was paying attention to him, he said, "There's one thing I want to ask you. I want to go to the restricted section to find Nicholas Flamel's lead, so—" "Pfft!" Aaron almost spit out the half-eaten food. He looked at Harry in astonishment. "No way! You haven't given up yet? Again, it is impossible for me to help you in this regard. The restricted section is not for first-year students." "But why can you go?" Ron said, a little unconvinced. "Harry and I saw you in the library before, and Miss Pince let you into the restricted section. Could it be that you are not a first-year student?" Aaron turned his head, looked at Ron meaningfully, and then patted him on the shoulder. "Ron, people are different. As you grow, you'll understand. You know, our dean is very optimistic about me. It only took a few minutes to get an approval slip," Harry said, a wry smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "But Aaron, this matter is really important. "Stop it," Aaron interrupted, his tone serious. "No matter how important it has nothing to do with me. I can help you in some aspects, but absolutely not in others. The restricted area is a little too early for you." Chapter 40. Fragments Found in the Restricted Section. The day after Christmas, Aaron awoke to the sound of his alarm clock. Groggy, he washed up and headed to the auditorium for breakfast. Afterward, he made his way to the library. Presenting Miss Pince with Professor Snape's approval note, he was granted access to the restricted section. While the general area of the library was invaluable to students, answering nearly 90% of their questions, it had begun to bore Aaron. The restricted section, however, catered to the remaining 1%, containing knowledge not taught in class, secrets of the magical world, habits of dark creatures, and deeply buried histories, even research on the soul. It was akin to the difference between browsing the internet freely and accessing exclusive VIP content. Navigating through rows of bookshelves, Aaron stopped in front of a gray book detailing the history of the elves. It covered their wars with other races, magical treasures, and more. Though the records were partial, they broadened his horizons significantly. In the history of magic class, the professor had only briefly mentioned the secrets of other races, often lacking detailed knowledge. As Aaron read with great interest, the angle of the sunlight streaming through the window shifted, and its reflection on the floor hurt his eyes. He closed the book and noticed a few shards of glass and some off-white lamp oil still clinging to them. After a moment of contemplation, a playful expression crossed his face. He picked up the glass shards, returned the book to the shelf, and exited the restricted section. "Hello, Gryffindor Prefect," Aaron called out, stopping Percy in the corridor. I need to ask you something. Are you Aaron? Percy eyed the Slytherin logo on Aaron's robe, frowning slightly. He was puzzled about what a Slytherin could want from him. Yes, it's me, Aaron Gaius. Oh, Fred and George have mentioned you. They spoke highly of you. What can I do for you? I need to speak with Harry Potter, but he's likely resting in the dormitory. The fat lady won't let me in without the password, and I don't want to bother Professor McGonagall over something so trivial. Could you help me? Percy considered for a moment, then replied seriously, I can help, but I need to know why you want to see him. Slytherins and Gryffindors have always been at odds. I can't take you to the common room without a good reason. Aaron was momentarily taken aback. It's not that serious. I don't need to go in. I just need you to call Harry out. Percy hesitated, scrutinizing Aaron's eyes. He was wary of the Slytherin misleading a Gryffindor student. If something went wrong, Percy, as the prefect, would be held responsible. He needed to manage the situation carefully. Let's go directly to the common room. Otherwise, it will be troublesome going back and forth. Isn't there a good enough reason? Percy paused, then said solemnly, During the holiday, we don't need to be so particular. They arrived at the end of the corridor on the 7th floor of Hogwarts Castle. The fat lady guarded the entrance to the Gryffindor common room in her painting. Dragon slag! Percy recited the password, and the fat lady swung open, revealing a circular entrance. Come in. You might be the first Slytherin to visit here. That said, I'm quite honored, Aaron replied as they stepped inside. The warmth from the fireplace dispelled the chill that had settled on them. The fire crackled, casting flickering shadows on the walls, and the phoenix pattern on the hearth glowed faintly. The lounge, constructed from volcanic stones, radiated a comforting heat. Percy led Aaron to a sofa. Wait here for a moment. Don't move around. I'll go fetch Harry, Percy instructed. Sorry to trouble you, Aaron replied. No trouble at all. This is what a prefect like me should do, Percy said as he walked towards a staircase. A few minutes later, Harry and Ron descended the stairs in their nightgowns. Percy, now seated at a table behind them, was engrossed in a book. Ah! Harry yawned. Aaron, what did you want from me? This matter might be important. The three of us should discuss it privately. There's no need for others to know, Aaron said, winking at Harry and Ron. He mouthed Percy, making his point clear. Harry and Ron exchanged uneasy glances. When Percy had woken them up, he had insisted on being present. It doesn't matter. We're all friends here. You can speak freely, Ron said. Aaron sighed, turning to Percy. I appreciate you bringing me here, but could you give us some privacy? This matter isn't suitable for Gryffindor prefects to know. Really? Did you break any school rules? Percy asked, his tone meaningful. No, Aaron replied earnestly. Then why can't I know? Percy countered. You should be aware that the relationship between Gryffindor and Slytherin has always been strained. I made an exception by letting you in. I want to stay to ensure you don't cause trouble during the holidays. After all, I brought you in, and I have to be responsible for what happens. Aaron's mouth twitched slightly. No wonder this guy is a prefect, he thought. To listen in, he even used such a small trick. He could have just walked away, but he felt a bit frustrated. Out of politeness, I'll call you Senior. Senior, believe me, it's better for us to discuss this matter in private. Once you know, the nature of the situation changes. Percy nodded. I'll stick to my original opinion. Okay. Aaron turned to Harry and Ron helplessly. What's your opinion? Let me remind you that sometimes you need to know how to resist. You can come out with me, and I'll explain in a few words. Then, Harry began, but Percy coughed twice. I think it's better to talk here. We don't have anything to hide, Harry said. Well said, but I hope you won't regret it later, Aaron replied. He then took out a piece of cloth from his pocket and placed it on the table. As he unfolded it, several shards of glass came into view. Ron and Percy looked puzzled, but Harry's expression changed slightly. I went to the restricted section this morning. Wait, you said the restricted section? Percy looked at Aaron in astonishment. Is that a place where a first-year student can go? I had the professor's approval note, or Miss Pince wouldn't have let me in, Aaron explained, sensing that Percy expected him to make mistakes. I still feel a bit out of place. Ha ha! How funny, you're a Gryffindor prefect and I'm a Slytherin. It doesn't matter if you say it fits or not, Aaron joked. He then picked up one of the fragments. While I was reading, I found these shards in front of a certain bookshelf. They weren't there when I left the library yesterday, but they were there this morning. No one cleaned them up, which means someone slipped into the restricted section last night without a professor's approval note. And the only people I know who wanted to go to the restricted section to check information are Harry and Ron. You suspect the two of them? Percy's face darkened. You can't blame Gryffindor just because of a few shards of glass and some speculation. It's too ridiculous. Senior, Aaron began, but Percy interrupted. You are right, I think so too. But my pet, who has a keen sense of smell, told me that the scent on these pieces resembles that of a friend of mine, Aaron said, placing Ababe on the table. The pet pretended to sniff at the debris, then glanced at Harry and Ron. The look in the cat's eyes made one of them feel chills, while the other felt uneasy for reasons he couldn't explain. You saw it too, so I came here on a whim to ask if it was the two of them. Instead of making a big deal out of it, Mrs. Pince's face is already not looking good. After all, it was her negligence as a librarian that allowed someone to sneak into the restricted section. The corresponding student's house should also lose some points. But now that you, the Gryffindor prefect, know about it, things are different. This is a violation of school rules and discipline. How do you want to handle it?